Call special meeting order, the trustee call.
Burgess.
Here.
Gordon.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Poskett.
Here.
Washington. Here. Williams. Here.
All right, item number 2, final review of the proposed 2014-2015 budget. We're here tonight because trustee Burgess put out a report analysis and asked that approach the board, try to work something out, but he said he declined to meet with meeting the village director. Finance directors, they don't meet with the board, so that's why we're going for a special meeting tonight based on that. So last Saturday, trustee Burgess emailed all the trustees, in fact the entire board with analysis. Hope that everyone had it with their input tonight. Everyone had it. All right, so we'll go through page by page. The trustee come up with how he came up with his assumptions and his facts and figures. So, but first of all, I'm just going to say that I received it, and the first memo, from the trustee, is kind of an attack. So, basically, the trustee had his opportunity to put out what he wanted to. I'm going to respond. So. That's the reason I have projected tonight, so to make sure that all residents see my response. And also, since it's been brought to my attention that this has been posted out there after tonight, my responses will be posted also. So we'll go through this page by page, and the trustees will stop at any time you
Are you
can.
using the mic? Are you guys able to hear?
It's fading in.
Yeah, it's fading it out. Is that you? You want a mic?
Yeah, I want you to get one. Yes. All right, we'll go through.
That is in that arm. It's not working. Could you pass them down, please? We'll put that as in that. Maybe it's the whole piece. It's not.
All right, we'll go through this page by page. First part is the, I guess you call it the narrative from the trustee. My comments throughout this entire report you're going to find is inside the square areas. The first part talks about how, maybe we can read this, says the mayor has presented a set balanced budget for 2014-15 on June 30th, 2014, nearly 2 months after when the fiscal year was started, or to start. The budget and process lacked input and involvement from the Board of Trustees, and department heads furthermore did not allow enough time for the village board to have a robust debate and open discussion about the merits of the budget. Public hearing was scheduled at such a time where public input could not have been taken into consideration to whether the amendments or changes could have been made before the passage. Now, my comments to this is this statement is incorrect and misleading. The budget process consisted of first working with the department heads. After adjusting the budget and verifying with the finance director, the budget was sent back to the department heads prior to presenting to the board. On June 13th, the board met to review the budget. The budget was made available for the residents to review prior to the public hearing on July 15th. There was a public hearing, only one resident asked questions. In addition, the board is meeting again tonight for a final review for a chance for trustee Burgess to provide evidence of the statements made in this report. So, again, the trustee had the opportunity to put this in writing, so I should have the opportunity to respond.
We got copies.
We got copies.
We'll get copies. But you got copies of this before.
I have the copy machine stopped working.
Oh, it did?
Yeah. So,
You worked really well.
yep, she had some stuff out with, I got some. But board will get copies. In fact, we'll probably get copies before I put it out on Facebook. So, just, I have no Facebook now.
This is the one.
But we can't have the budget meeting, that's all about Facebook.
Talking to the mayor. Now, you're gonna narrate it.
Use the mic, please.
I'm not talking to you.
Can we continue, please? This is already the second
No,
time.
don't disrupt, don't interrupt me without talking to the mayor, that's all, I'm giving him a comment.
You're absolutely
It
right.
has nothing to do with the clerk, I am not talking to the clerk. If you want to defend him, then you do that, but I'm talking to the mayor, that's all.
Can we use the mic, please? Use the mic.
All right, next one says, many questions remain about answers as we went to the budget meeting on June 30th and further analysis was clearly needed. We received the budget day of the budget hearing and nobody expected the mayor Hanks had an opportunity to review the data. Now, all I gotta say about this is the mayor's office has been open and I've encouraged the trustees to ask questions, which many of the trustees have. They come in and ask questions. I've got one trustee looking for a village manager. She's come in and tried to pick any budget apart to see if we can get a village manager in there. So, and again, it's been open since the June 30th meeting. The administration is the first to have a liaison between the departments and the board. This administration is. And there's no reason for questions, especially from this trustee, since he's the liaison for the finance department. So. Next one talks about given the village's fragile financial condition, the lack of timely financial reports. It was hoped that more attention and detail would have been given to the budget and the budgetary process. However, it doesn't seem to be the case. This is absolutely the worst budget I've seen. This budget lacks attention and detail, lacks thorough consideration for some very serious financial situations, lacks a clear plan of action, and does not consider many short and long-term goals or objectives. Again, the budget presented to the board will be challenged and is balanced. The proposed budget addresses paying bills that we've inherited from previous administrations, moving the village forward. The budget does not call for any layoffs and does not end any services that have already been provided to the village residents. This budget does include, which is pretty important, especially when you look at the financial state of the village, negotiated pay raises for union employees and pay raises and increases for non-union employees. Also includes new vehicles for the police department, public works, and possibly homeland security, and that will be depending on our negotiations with the public works vehicles. Completion of work to our wells is mandated by the IEPA Attorney General. Lowering attorney costs as previous litigation cases are resolved or dismissed. Funds for police and fire commission to start hiring lists for the police department so we can continue addressing crime from vacancies in our police department. About $335,000 in grants for renovations and improvements to village park, $75,000 in grants for infrastructures, which will break down of $50,000 for V-boxes and $25,000 for fire hydrants, and approximately throughout the entire budget about $500,000, which comes from CDGB, MFT, and state funds for street improvement projects. Talked about the mayor took upon himself to meet the department heads, which earlier said I didn't meet with the department heads, but now took upon himself to meet with the department heads with cuts of over $5 million from the budget that the board of trustees had not reviewed or seen. It has not been determined what had been cut and without logic and consideration behind the cuts. Mayor Hanks advised that he did not seek the advice and consent of those meetings. Again, this statement is an assumption, and it's incorrect, and it's not true. The budget process started with the department heads, and the mayor also, which I did, reach out to other mayors in other communities, asking for help and advice, also giving some of them our budget from last year to see what kind of advice they can give, especially a new mayor. I reached out to some mayors that have been around for quite a few years. Also talked to them what they are doing in their communities to see what we can do here in Sauk Village. So again, that's an assumption. It's not true. We'll go to the next one. Just because things in the past practice doesn't mean that they are correct. It should simply be continued given the challenging financial condition of the city of Illinois, the national in general, and sorry, the nation in general, Sauk Village needs to step up the game. All I can say is it is the mayor's responsibility for preparing an annual budget and presenting it to the board for its review and adoption. You're doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Again, that's meeting with department heads, that's going through the budget and presenting the budget, just like every other mayor does in their communities, just like the governor does for Springfield, just like the president of the United States does for Washington, D.C. Again, the important thing is working with the department heads so that we come up with a budget that they feel is achievable. And that's one thing we did. Again, met with the department heads, we went through everything. Again, it was sent back to the department heads prior to presenting it to you. And there was only 2 department heads that came back to me, that was police department and public works. And we made changes inside their budgets before presenting it to you. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that one. Talks about, again, starting to get dry mouth, and everyone can read this, and you've had a chance to read it. It talks about we had 6 months to prepare the budget. Again, complaining about the amount of time it took to prepare it. I think what's important for this board to realize, and for the residents to realize, is that the administration has focused this last year on completing audits. We went back to the 2009-2010 year. Since being your mayor, the village has submitted audits for the following years: 2009, 2010, 2010, 2011, 2011, 2012, and we just submitted 2012, 2013. And currently, right now, we've already started the audits for 2013, 2014. So we've been working hard, and again, there was some pressing things that we had to get done. We were working with the comptroller's office to get the audits out. So when you look at, okay, we had 6 months, but the last 6 months we were constantly working on getting the data from previous administrations and getting stuff out to, so we can get our audits completed. And that was what was important. So rather than, pouring more on the department heads, while they were trying to get information for the auditors, it was more important that we get those audits out. So, just so you realize, the administration had 6 months to prepare the budget. The trustees have been asked for about the same amount of time to provide cost savings initiatives. We will continue to ask the trustees for solutions. However, what is the solution to the previous statement? Not pass the budget. I'm going to ask the question. To get into this budget, finances need to be fundamentally changed. Everything should be on the table. And again, I'm just going to start reading my comments here. It says, no, mayor's office remains open. However, tactics to stall passing this budget, especially with issues that the village has faced over the years, is not acceptable. Anything good in this report can be discussed at a later committee meeting, and a budget can be amended to the vote by the whole board. So what I'm saying is, we have to the end of this month to get this budget passed and submitted to the comptroller's office. If there's stuff in this budget as you go through it, I've got no problem coming back to this table next month and saying, you know what, here's some good ideas, let's review these, and let's see what we can do. I've got no problem with that. We can amend the budget and send in a supplemental, the supplemental changes. Okay. So that, again, that's just getting into the first part. Anyone have any questions so far?
Yes, I have.
Good.
I just want to make sure that you said that.
Can't hear you.
You said that we completed the budget for 2009, 2010, 2011.
Audit.
Audit, sorry,
Yes,
2011, 2012, 2000. Some of those again.
Remember, every audit is 2 years.
Right.
First one was 2009, 2010.
Mhm.
Second one is 2010, 2011.
And these are done, completed.
They're done, submitted. 2011, 2012. 2012, 2013 was just submitted.
So that's
And-
4.
And we're currently working on 2013 and 2014.
So 4 are done, and we're working on 1,
Correct.
all in 1 year.
Just shortly over a year.
That's awesome.
Trustee?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First of all, before we go any further, are you prepared to accept any changes tonight and wait for the vote, or are you asking to vote and then make amendments after the vote is being passed, after the vote has been taken? Is that what you're asking for tonight?
Correct.
Okay, my question to you, sir, is this. Why do we have this meeting? Because having this meeting tonight, we could have voted on it on Tuesday night and then said what you said, have the changes, make the changes. To me, the reason why you had this meeting is to rebut everything that I put on there, and I'm sure these people didn't want to sit there for the next 15 minutes, and this village didn't want to pay $800 for us to come here and hear a rebuttal of everything that I put out there. If you're planning on not changing anything tonight, because you have to, if you're going to make change, you have to present that to the residents. So if you don't plan on changing, if you plan on just asking for a vote at this time, and then if there's any changes, to make them later, we could have done that Tuesday night at the board meeting. You didn't have to take it off the agenda. We could have done it then. But if the purpose of this meeting is so you can rebut everything that I put on there, I think it was a waste of people's time to come out here for the last 15, 20 minutes and hear what it is that I put out there for you to rebut that and for them to sit through this, because the end result is going to still be you want to take, you're asking to take a vote on the budget that you wanted to take a vote on the budget that was already put out there in writing. If that's the case, then we didn't have to be here for that. This meeting didn't have to take place. We could have just did that Tuesday night, and then at a later date, as you just stated, we could have did this. But it seems to me the reason why you had that, so you can make a long statement of everything, because we didn't even go over what we're talking about, what was said. Yes, I talked to the finance chairman, but we didn't even go over that. Another thing that was done just Tuesday night, and I didn't bring it up because, to tell you the truth, I really forgot about it. We passed money that was allocated for the next budget, which was not passed yet. The village board passed to pay money that was in the budget for 2014, 2015, that was not voted on. And they agreed, they passed to pay that money that was in that budget for that. I don't understand how that happened. I'm sorry, I voted against it, but I didn't see that. I saw something else. And we already voted to pay out and make a payment to something that was budgeted that wasn't even passed yet. So all I'm saying is, instead of trying to go back and forth, why don't we go to item number 3? And if that's what you plan on doing tonight without any questions, because usually when you take votes on something, you have questions about it, but there's nothing on here for that. We don't have to waste everybody else's time to do this or to do whatever it is. You didn't even give us a copy. Anybody a copy? You said the copy machine was out, but I was here earlier today and I made copies of something, and I was just here just now making copies, but it must have been out since between that time. We don't have to go, maybe we don't have to have these people sit here any longer and hear back and forth. If you planning on asking for a motion right now, you plan on asking for a motion tonight to pass this budget as is and then make changes later. You plan on doing that, Mr. Mayor, why not do that now? Why make them sit any longer for that?
All right, the reason we are here is because I have an email here from you saying you would not meet with Mr. Mohan and myself, and you want to meet with your fellow board to go over this.
I asked to meet with you, Mayor, prior to this. Before I asked to meet with you, you told me the latest you could meet, the earliest you could meet was Monday, which means you didn't give us any chance. You're not giving this board any chance to review anything. I talked to you about this last Tuesday, not this past Tuesday. Last Tuesday, I talked to you about that and told you that I would like to meet with you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday of that week. You sent me an email next day stating that you can't meet. The earliest you can meet was that Monday, which would be the day before you take a vote. How can we make changes then? Basically, you telling me, you know, I'm not going to, it is what it is, and I'm going to meet with you. You're just blowing me off. You had 4 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, to meet with me and Mohan
or we meet and try to go over this. You're doing the same thing now. Instead of waiting, you're gonna say, okay, we got to hurry up and do this, which we should have known about this back in May. Why are we continue to keep going over? If you're gonna take a vote, let the board vote what they make, and don't string it out any longer, man. I'm asking you, if you plan on taking a vote, don't string it out any longer. Why go over this? You've already made your comments, you've already had your rebuttal, everybody heard what you had to say, even though you don't do this, but everybody heard what you had to say. Why go any further? Why even go through what I went through? You went through what you wanted to go through, fine. Let's go to the next item and let's vote on it.
I think we need to go through this entire thing because I don't want to hear anyone say that the village board didn't discuss.
But Mayor, you're not going to change anything. You're not going to change anything. If everybody wants a copy of what I put out there, I'll provide copies. I'll go back there and use the copy machine that wasn't working and provide copies to everybody that want copies. But to let them sit through this 20-some pages for the next hour and a half, and the end result is still going to be, you're going to vote on this tonight. You can't vote, you can't make changes and vote on them at the same time. So obviously you don't plan on making any changes at this time. You're going to say, we'll consider it at a later date, we'll consider it at a later date, we'll consider it at a later date. Let's consider it at a later date instead of having to sit through this right now. If they want to see what I put on there, fine. I'll give them copies of that. But to have them sit through this and go through all these pages, it's not going to take 10 minutes, it's going to take an hour or something. Why have them sit through there? If you plan on voting tonight, you plan on voting tonight, then no. You cannot, Mayor, you cannot make changes on the budget.
As we go through this, if there's anything that the village board wants to say, I want to look at this in further consideration, the village clerk is here, we can make sure it's on the next meeting. So we're here tonight.
So in other words, number 3 is not going to take place.
Number 3.
Item number 3. Pardon me?
It's on there, it is.
I'm asking you, is item number 3 going to take place? Are you going to call for a vote?
It's on the agenda.
Then why are we talking about changing something? You can't change it and vote on it at the same time without having it being presented in form, letter to the residents. You can't change something that's already, you can't vote on something that's being amended tonight. Like you just said, it has to be amended at a later date. Let's vote on it now. You asked for that Tuesday night. I don't know why you took it off if you plan on doing this. So I don't know why we're going through this if you're not going to change it, or if you plan on voting on it tonight, why are we going through this?
Trustee Washington. I'm sorry.
She was asked first.
Trustee Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, it was my understanding that we came tonight to hear what you had prepared, Trustee Burgess, to go through when it was finished, to go through what you prepared. You emailed it to us, you gave us a hard copy. We are here to go through the changes that you went through the budget and found. Now, whatever the mayor has prepared in regard to what he went through, he has an answer for the things that you pulled out to elaborate on further, to give more clarity to the board. I think that we all came here tonight to hear what you have to say. If the people have to go, they have to go, but that's why we're here to serve. It don't matter if we're here till tomorrow to get the budget straight. And the longer we keep talking about this part of it, we could be going on through page 1. You got 13 pages, right?
No. Trustee, first of all, I gave everybody a copy Saturday.
Okay.
So why are we going over this now? You read it.
Right.
Obviously, if you did, I'm sorry, but why are we going over it?
We're going over
Do
it.
you have any suggestions? I have my suggestions, I'm putting in writing. Do you have any suggestions?
We're not here to talk about my suggestions.
Why not? You're a trustee.
We can talk about my suggestions, but we initially came to talk about.
Why? You don't have to talk about my suggestions. Self-explanatory, trustee.
Trustee, only one at a time.
Can
My
we-
trustee.
Trustee Washington has the floor.
My suggestions are self-explanatory.
Okay, whether we vote on it tonight or a month from now, you still have to explain to the board the changes that you found. You are here tonight to tell us
But
that.
you know I'm not. I'm not here to tell
Why
you.
did you want to meet with us?
No. Did I tell y'all? No, ma'am. I did not tell you I wanted to meet with you. I gave everybody a
Not
copy.
with me personally, you told me.
I did not tell them, no, I did not.
And
No.
you wanted to meet
No.
with the board.
No, I told the mayor at the time he sent me an email asking me to meet with him on Monday prior to the village board meeting Tuesday.
Right.
I told him then, if that's the case, then I don't want to meet, because now you're playing a joke. You had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday to sit down and constructively talk about this. I presented you and the rest of the board with my analysis of what the budget is. I know I presented that Saturday.
Right.
But for you to sit here and have everybody go through what I put down there, no.
We're not going through it, we're going through
But
it.
I don't need to go through it, it's self-explanatory. All you have to do is read it.
But you said you wanted to.
And now, if you have some questions,
Lord.
if you have some questions for the mayor and for the,
No, my questions are for you. This
for
is
what?
your analysis.
No, this is my analysis.
Right.
I didn't make the budget.
Okay,
This is
so
my analysis after I saw the budget, yes.
now that we're here, at this point.
I think it's a waste of time.
I don't.
I think it's a waste of time to ask me questions about something. I didn't put the budget together. I didn't put the budget together.
Trustee Burgess, with all due respect, you're the one that came up with the
Okay,
discrepancies or the suggestions.
Okay,
So
if you saw
let me
that,
finish, you won't let me finish.
fine.
All of these discrepancies or suggestions or changes that you came up with, like the mayor just said, he doesn't have a problem with it. We agree with the things that you came up with, changing them and amending it. Whether we do it tonight or whether we have to come back and vote on it and amend it, we still need to understand what we're amending. This is your time to tell us what you're talking about.
Trustee,
Yes, it
let me
is.
explain something to you. Since you said you're the junior trustee,
I am.
once you pass a budget, it's law. You can amend all you want if you can. But in the meantime, you pass that budget.
But you can
All the,
still
no. Why should you amend? You've already let the horse. Are you close the barn after the horse is gone?
People
You're gonna close the barn?
People
But
make
you've already
amendments to
voted on it.
budgets all over the world.
Okay, well,
They may tell your department.
If you read
And come
this,
back and have to readjust your budget for your department. They do it all the time.
if you read this, it's not for me to defend what I wrote down. I wrote it down.
We don't want you to defend, we just want you to explain it.
It's in writing.
Okay, but we can talk about it.
Trustee, let's go to trustee Williams.
If I start shaking, it's gonna end up having PTSD flashbacks. Here's my question. I think we all started off with the fact that Trustee Burgess presented this, correct? We can all agree to that. Last week Tuesday, we got this. No, I'm sorry. No, last week Tuesday, Trustee Burgess came to the board meeting with this, talked about it. Okay, we asked for copies, there was none left, we got it on Saturday. Apparently there was an agreement to meet, that was made on Tuesday. Apparently the meeting didn't happen, and it was stated that the board member, that Trustee Burgess would prefer for all the board to be here so we could discuss it. That was my reasoning for why we were having this meeting. I remember saying last week Tuesday, I went through the timeline. I offered the board suggestions. We could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could be on this day, we could have a special meeting, we could pass a bunch of late, we could improve rights, we could do all these different things. I remember saying, but we all said we were going to come back here, we were going to have this meeting, whatever it was going to be. On Tuesday, we discussed it. So I'm not sure why we're acting brand new. This original analysis was talked about to the board, a hard copy was not provided. Similarly is what the mayor did today. He's talking about something, he has not provided us a hard copy. He says he will, as Trustee Burgess said he will, and he eventually got it.
Well, again, the reason they don't have copies is because when we try to copy it, copy sheet.
Right.
That's
Either
why.
way.
But we do have, it up here where everyone can see.
Either way, I guess my concern is that if Trustee Burgess stated that these are his, this is an analysis, and he wanted the board to review it before the budget is passed, again, I'm going to present some options. We can pass the budget tonight and not have any fines and come back and ratify like we've done multiple times in the past, or we cannot pass the budget. To me, at this point, I don't care. But if Trustee Burgess is saying that he wanted to have this meeting with the board to go over his analysis, and now Trustee Burgess is saying he does not want to have a meeting, so I can make a motion to adjourn in a heartbeat. I mean, we can get out at 7:30. I'm okay with that. If we all boil down to the same basic principle. Are we going to get fines for passing the budget late, or are we not going to get fines for passing the budget late? Which means we would pass it today at the special meeting. There are only two options. There's no gray area. It's black or it's white. Pass the budget, no fines. Don't pass the budget, get fines. That's it. So if we could all kind of make the general consensus of whether or not we're going to do that, fine. If we're going to pass the budget, then hey, and we pass the budget. And if we still want to go over all this, let's go over it. But let's be constructive about it. Let's go through things. Let's not go back and forth, because like I said, I'm getting flashbacks from last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's ridiculous. It's counterproductive.
We've wasted about 15 minutes on this. Let's go ahead and move to the next one. Under fund balances. We got the fund balances. There's a chart up here at the top.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, and this is why I said this. This is the reason why I said this. If we're gonna go through this like you're talking about, and you're gonna rebut every single thing that's on there, that's not what this was all about. This was supposed to be, we're trying to look at it. I brought questions up. I didn't bring questions up attacking anything. I brought questions up because they were not presented in this budget.
And trustee,
If you want to continue to keep, and you're gonna have a rebuttal on every single page, we're gonna be here a very long time. Because it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about trying to look at things that were overlooked in the budget. That's all it's about.
and trustee, if you took the time to meet with the finance director and myself,
Not the day before, sir. You're not gonna put
could have went through all.
You're not gonna put me on your calendar the day before you're gonna vote, and I gave you 4 days ahead of time to let's talk about it. I asked you 4 days ahead of time. The only time you had was 3:30 on a Monday, the day before. And how are you gonna get the reason why? Just tell the whole story. The reason why I didn't want to do it, because you didn't have time. We would have changed something. You didn't have time to get it out to the trustees in time for the vote the next day. That's the reason why I said, no, let's talk to the trustees. I gave you my proposal. That's my, I'm one person. I'm not the one that came up with the budget and presented it to the village. Once I saw it, like I told you, I cannot go over something until I see it. Once I saw how the budget was, I brought to the attention of yourself and everyone else that I wrote this to, the things that was overlooked. That's all it is. But if we're going to go through page by page, and every page you're going to have a rebuttal, then yes, sir, it is all about you. And that's not what it's about. Because right now, you still haven't answered my question. Why did we pay a payout on this year's budget that has not been passed yet? Why did we make a payout for that?
All right, under fund balances.
I guess I'll get no answer for that.
Under fund balances.
There's no answer.
No.
There's no answer.
Get the mic.
One question for Bill. And your statement, sir. I thought we only had one 18-month budget period. Did we have two?
Yes.
Can you tell me on your?
They won't, you don't think you were trustee at that time, I don't think. Yes, you were.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, we
I only remember one. It was
Two 18 months and one 6 month.
Yeah, we went for 6 months.
No, we had 2 18 months, back to back, and 1 6 month.
We had one trustee. We had one 18-month in 2009, 2010. Then we went to a 12-month in 2010, 2011, 12-month in 2011, 2012, 6 months in 2012 and 13, and we're going back to 12 months. Because what happened was when the previous administration came on, we were in a 12-month, and based off of the attorneys, they wanted to add 6 more months to that. That put us on 18 months, and then we were running 12 months ever since. And then after coming in here in 2012, 13, we decided we wanted to get back on the same 12-month schedule we were on. So we ended up with a 6-month budget, so we can continue getting back on the normal schedule. So, and it's all been verified.
Mr. Mayor, again, if you're gonna go through this way, then don't even, why are we doing this? If you're gonna take everything apart instead of being constructive and saying, okay, well, we need to look at this. If you're gonna rebut every single thing, then we're being counterproductive because you're still gonna take the vote. Why are we putting the people through that? Take the vote, if that's what you're gonna end up doing anyway. But to sit here and go over every I, dot every I, and cross every T, and bring up every little thing, I don't think everyone needs to sit here for that. If we're going to vote on it, then let's vote on it. If that's what you ultimately going to do is vote on it, fine. You still have to answer my question. Why did we make payments on the budget that was not passed yet?
All right. Anyone else have any questions from?
You're not going to answer that one. We're not gonna answer that. But you're gonna listen to this, but this has already happened. This is not happening.
We're in July. How many accounts payables have you approved since the
We approved
end of
one,
April?
we approved one yesterday, Tuesday.
Since the end of April, how many have you approved?
How many accounts payable have we approved? We have 2 every month. Okay. I'm asking you, why did we approve the one we just did Tuesday that was already paid? Why was that approved? Why did we even pay that out, sir? Why did we pay that $100 and some thousand out that wasn't even, it's not even on the budget? I mean, it's on the new budget, it is, it's on the new budget, but why do you pay that?
When you don't have a budget in place, you continue working off the last budget, and your accounts payable have to be approved by the board to make the expenditures. So, the last budget ended, what, April 30th?
Yes.
And it is now July the 24th.
Yes.
You're finally asking the question.
No, I'm asking the question because it was on the last one, last accounts payable. Why did we pay that? Why was that check? You signed
As
that
the
check.
village,
You signed this check.
the village continues to move, and we
Couldn't that person been told that we haven't passed the budget yet, we'll pay you once you pass the budget?
Probably a lot of vendors have been told that. And probably the employees.
This wasn't a vendor, sir.
And probably your employees could have been told that on April 30th is the last check you're gonna get.
I didn't say,
Until the board passes it.
now you're pulling that straws me. I didn't say nothing about that. But that's.
No, but you're asking about how we're paying bills.
I said,
We
why do
pay
we
bills
pay
because we
that?
go to the village board for
Why do we
approval.
pay that? But you go to the village board for approval, then we shouldn't have done it, man.
All right. Any other questions under this one?
Which one?
One we just got. Yeah, the fund balances. Again, as we go through this, just so you realize that any of the figures through this report are skewed, because all through this report, they were based off of 2 18-month budgets, where we only had one. So, all through the report, I made a note of it, that the figures are skewed through this report. All right, again, the fund balances, again, this general fund balance is really skewed. It looks like we're falling off the face of the earth at the end of this year. However, you can see, again, one thing I do want to go back, because the trustee said he had recommendations. Let's see this one here. But the recommendations are mostly all the same. The village board should work collaboratively to bring the general fund back into balance. Again, long-term goal, something that we continue to try to work on. But when you look at this chart that was provided, in the blue is what was provided, in the green and the red are the actual numbers. Just so the board knows, the bill chart appears to be skewed and incorrect. There was a rise in the chart between 2012 and 2013 as we paid bills and ended litigation. Based on the numbers provided in this report on page 22, this is the trustee's report, there should be another rise between 2013 and 2014, which should have been shown, which it wasn't, showed it was falling off the face of the earth. Because you think about, like, even in office, we're well over $1 million in the agent report. Again, I don't know which numbers you used last Tuesday or Tuesday before. The trustee says around 400,000. This report says 800,000. I used the worst case scenario. I used the 800,000 amount. It's still, we ended up paying off our deficit last year. Now, are we back up to 0? No. So if you look at 2012, we started to come back up. 2013, we came up. However, we make it very clear that 2014 time frame, we expect to be flat. So, unless we get additional revenue coming in, which we're going to continue working on, but we're looking at being flat this year. But there's no going down. Again, we verify the numbers and check those out. So, again, everyone's known since 2009 that we had a deficit. 2009, the village board found out there was about $500,000. The previous administration took it way well over $1 million into deficit. So we've been working very hard to get us out of this hole. But it's difficult based off of the financial state, but we will continue. We'll continue reaching out to Springfield, we'll continue reaching out to Washington, looking for funds so we can start continuing getting that deficit back up. And like right now, I say we project being flat this next year. And if we get some more businesses in Sauk Village and we get some more growth, that number may also go up again. So the goal is to get back to zero and to get a fund balance, so we get out of this deficit.
Could we get some light?
The revenue analysis, anyone have any questions on this one? Talks a little bit about the property taxes, and again, Sauk Village has historically received. Sauk Village has historically received approximately 97% of what that's estimated. Figures were conservatively anticipated and according to GASB standards, which the village uses. And we'll get into GASB, what it stands for. But kind of give you a Sauk Village when it comes to our auditing and our budget. We use it's called GASB, G-A-S-B, is a Government Accounting Standard Board standard. That's what we're using. The other one, which seems to be spelled out in this report, is the GAAP, G-A-A-P. That one is generally accepted accounting principles, and that's something that's used by financial institutions. So there is a difference between GAAP and GASB. The GAAP is kind of just like it says, it's acceptable, it's something that you can go back and look at, but we are governed by GASB. So I just want to make sure that the board understands that one. Again, everything was done through GASB. Let's go down to the 2008 bonds, 2007-8 bonds. It didn't seem like it appeared to be absent from the budget. This is where I went back just to make sure it wasn't. So again, the above statement is incorrect. The 2007-8 bonds were anticipated in the property tax under corporate under page 1 of your budget. The money is transferred under finance and administration on page number 4. And the funds are received in debt services on page number 27, and they are paid out in debt services under expenditures on page number 27 of the budget. So, again, that kind of concerned me when I did see that. And then, I wanted to refresh my memory, I could find everything from the finance administration, and I just had to find out exactly where it's being paid through, so it's under corporate taxes. Does anyone have any questions on that one? Again, we talk about GASB. It says, where it said the budget is presented anticipates 100% collection rate. This is correct. Again, when you start using your GASB standards, it is correct and based on 100% according to GASB and IML projections. That's what we use. So if there's usually GASB, Jerry says Governmental Accounting Standard Board. It's a standard for preparing its budget. Again, GAAP is a general accepted accounting principle which is used mostly by financial institutions. So it's not something that municipalities use. Maybe we can go back and look at what they say, but we use GASB. Same thing under the Illinois state tax. There was a question about how we were figuring that. Again, it goes back to GASB. Pretty much the same thing. If you have any questions as I go through this, just again, we get into state income, taxes, and the sales taxes. Again, these figures are skewed because there was only 1 year that the village had 18 months. As you see, in 2012 and 2013 are being figured as 18 months, which they were not. The only 18-month budget we have is 2009, 2010. Again, recommendations here. State tax revenue should be estimated as much a very conservative basis. Revenue should be as close to what historically they brought in. Over anticipated income will bring the general fund out of balance. The village board needs to work collaboratively on a long-term solution on this matter. So again, maybe this is something that we want to add to come back and see sure we have the correct figures in front of us when we sit down. Fees and services. You know, as the board knows, we raised all of our licensing fees, and I don't have numbers, but we're doing pretty good compared to last year. You get the majority of your local businesses, or all your local businesses come in and get their licenses, and throughout the year we continue selling licenses to contractors and businesses that are people that want to do business in Sauk Village. So that number will continue to go up. So we're doing well there. Again, this is incorrect what you read under fees and services. The figures are based on prior year actuals. In addition, you know, again, it talked about where we're looking for additional growth. And we've got advanced auto coming in, and we have other potential projects. And in my opinion, this figure is probably going to be low. Just dealing with some of the business people that I've been talking with, we're looking at some great things happening this year. And everything from new businesses to potential groundbreakings. So, you know, we're working very hard with our economic development team to go through this. So, again, nothing is for certain, but we continue to get out there. We try to make sure that we attend events and things like that to make sure Sauk Village is out there. The police toll release are projected the same as 2012. Again, these figures are based on prior year period collections. In addition, vehicles are tolled because of violations and reasoning. Although it would be nice, it would be like, again, I didn't read into it. They wanted the trustee is making the recommendation that we use the toll fund for capital expenditures. You know, although it would be nice if we use that for capital expenditures, it's like saying that all tickets should be used for capital expenditures. Okay? You know, again, you have to look back. That is not the case. And what would the village use for funds for day-to-day general expenses, payroll, etc.? So I think if the village ever gets to the point where we have a fund balance, there could be something where we say, you know, we've got enough money coming in, we can use those funds for capital expenditures, and then again, that would take less of a burden off the village, especially when it comes to, we're going to talk about later about the leasing of the 6 cars this next year, for the next 4 years. But the village needs to make sure we have a positive fund balance at the same time. So, again, it's something we're working on. The recommendation from the trustee is fees and services should be budgeted on a more conservative basis. Police tolls and fees should be earmarked for police department capital expenditures or operation expense, and which we're using for operation expense when it comes to the toll fund. The village board needs to work collaboratively on a long-term solution in this matter. That was the recommendation. Talk about the Illinois Bell 911 surcharge. This is correct, the figure. The trustee was asking why it was an increase. The reason it's increased is because the village is expecting to receive, I think it's a one-time additional revenue from the Illinois Comptroller's funds according to the Illinois Commerce Commission. So we're expecting that money to come in. That's the reason why this line item is higher. Parks and Recs. Again, if you go through and start to read them, the above statements, they're incorrect in saying Parks and Recs and their personnel are budgeted through the general fund. And no personnel were budgeted through anticipated grants. I want to make sure it's clear. The above statement says personnel is budgeted through grants, which is not true. While the hours based on what is budgeted may be correct, the community center is not open 7 days a week. Like I said, it looks like the community center is normally open 2 hours a day. Community center is only open something like 3 or 4 days a week. There's other events that happen through volunteers and through outside groups. So your part-time employee is only needed a certain amount of hours. A lot of the events that happen through Parks and Recs are through volunteers. So you've got Parks and Recs volunteers, the plan works with them to do the Easter event. So those are all volunteers. These people are not getting paid. So something to think about. You know, as for anticipating grants for next year, we're anticipating $335,000 At the June 15th meeting, our lobbyist was here and has already assured us the $135,000 is already been approved in Springfield. We're working on putting all the plans together to get them into Springfield so they know exactly what the grant money will be used on, what improvements we're going to make. Again, when you're filling your grants out, all that information has to be completed. So for someone to ask us, what are you going to use that $135,000 on right now? It's very difficult to say, here's what we're going to do. So we have the entire plan has been approved in Springfield so that we get that money. Once the plan is approved, we can come back and say, here's what's happening. This plan has been approved. So we have $335,000 next year is what's anticipated for Parks and Recs. Again, none of that grant money is being used at all for payroll. That money is being earmarked for, and when I say payroll, I'm talking about payroll of any part-time employees. What's that? No grants are being used to make payroll for part-time employees or anything like that. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to continue requesting funds through Springfield. There's some good things about talking about maintenance and our buildings and stuff. Again, a lot of our work on our buildings gets done through Public Works, and that's where that gets budgeted through. Our employees are doing the majority of the work, but for any additional work, we're reaching out to our state representatives to see if there's any grants or any funding through Springfield or through Washington where we can continue to make improvements to our current buildings. We're also looking at if there's anything out there that if we wanted to build a new building, what is out there, and is it something that the person can afford? A lot of times you run into grants are 90-10 or 80-20. When you start looking at building something for the village, you're probably looking at millions. So then you have to turn around and think, well, if it's $1 million, if it's an 80-20, we're looking at least a minimum of $200,000. If it's a 90-10, it's $100,000. So we have to be able to have the funds first to be able to do that, which we don't. That's why some of that stuff we have brought to the board. Grants. Talks about the grants. Is there balance the budget with grant revenue? I'm going to be very clear. There's no balance in this budget with grant revenue. You can look very clearly through the whole entire budget. You'll find where we expect the grant funds to come in. You'll see where the grant expenditures are going out. So there's no balance in this budget. You can remove those grants from the budget, and the budget will still be balanced. The fact that they're in the budget is because we're expecting grant money to come in, we're expecting grant money to be spent. So no grant money, again, that statement is incorrect and misleading. As per projected grants are not used to balance a budget. The anticipated grant revenues are included in the budget as a projected revenue and also included in the project expenditures for the project, for the projected grant project. So, just want to make sure we have that in there. If anyone has anything, just let me know. Here we talked about the information that's included in the grant application. Again, a lot of things, there's a lot of information if you ever work on grants. You know exactly what you have to provide. That information has to be, those documents have to be approved. Sometimes they're sent back to you, you have to make adjustments. So to be able to say exactly what's going to happen, what you're going to do, you can't do that until you get the grant back and it's been approved for the work that's going to happen. Because with the grant, they're going to come back and they're going to say they're going to give you so much money for, if it covers the engineering costs, so much for construction costs, so much for this. You're going to put together a whole entire plan, what we're going to do. They're going to look at the layout and see if it's grant eligible for the work that's happening. Talk about other grants and stuff. Again, this information has been given out to the board at multiple meetings. We talked about, we just had the lobbyist here. $25,000 for fire hydrants, $50,000 for deep boxes and jetty, $175,000 for infrastructure, this is going for roads, and $135,000 that's for the Aero Park parks in that area. There's a question about the fire grant. This grant has already been spent, but it falls within this budget year. This is the grant the fire department got. I think it was what, $25,000, fresh memory? $25,000 for tools and equipment. They've already got their tools and equipment. Because it falls during this year, that money will be paid. Have we paid it yet, or? Yes, it's already paid. So, again, was it? Yeah, so again, this is a grant that the fire department received. The tools and equipment have already been received, and the grant has already been paid out, just like it was supposed to be. Again, that was a grant that the fire department put out for tools and equipment, so, which spells out how you're going to spend the money and how much you get to spend. Transfers. There's been questions about the transfers. You know, I put in here, when transferring funds from a TIF, the village must provide a detailed report as to why the funds are being requested. So our village has what they call trustees. We have aggregate, I always get this name. What's the name of that name? Aggregate. They have trustees that we provide all the reports and say, here's why we need the funds. We're being reimbursed for stuff that we have. And you get reimbursed for everything from what police coverage, fire, administration costs, and especially some of our TIFs, we have agreements in those TIFs that the village can receive up to a certain amount inside that TIF. So that's why it's important, and Mohan does a great job tracking the amount of time that we spend in those areas. So we have financial advisors that review the requests. We've got Kane McKenna, which is Mary Thompson, and Phil McKenna. You know, there's sometimes that Mohan might say we want to reimburse for this, and you know they're there asking more questions to make sure that they're our police, if you want to say. They make sure that Sauk Village is doing what they're supposed to do. So there's always a check and balance when it comes to getting these transfers. That not only protects, I guess, Mohan for requesting, but it also protects you as a president to make sure that we're doing it correctly. Derek?
Can't hear you, Derek.
Microphone, please.
You have to explain the $300,000 that we're transferring from the water fund to the general fund. Why?
We are transferring $300,000, $150,000 from water, $150,000 from sewer. Again, those go back to administration costs and things that the village is getting reimbursed for. And this is anticipated $300,000. Again, why we are transferring this is because costs that the village incurred under general fund that should have been paid through water and sewer.
What costs are they? Because the water fund is self-sufficient, so what costs did the village incur that's not paid out of the water fund that we have to transfer money out of the water fund to the general fund? Because once it goes to the general fund, it's not earmarked for the water anymore, it's the general fund only.
You want to respond again? It's pretty self-explanatory about any fund, anything that the village it occurs through the water fund. It's the same thing through TIF. We incur charges through the TIF, and we put in for those transfers through that also.
Mr. Mayor, the TIF is not the water fund. The water fund is by itself. Why are we using water fund money for general fund expenses? The water fund is supposed to be used for water fund expenses only, which would be the infrastructure, which would be lease. Why are we taking money out of that fund and putting it into the general fund?
You could have everything from, you talk about infrastructure, you talk about engineering costs, which the general fund would pay.
That's part of professional services, which is a different line. I'm not talking about that. You have that already listed for professional services. I'm asking, why are we transferring money out of the water fund to the general fund? If it's for lawyers, that's what professional services, that's already there. You got that there. Why are we taking this money out of the water fund for general fund? For what use?
Again, for anything that the general fund has, go ahead, you explain better, because you live in state.
General fund incurs costs on behalf of all of the funds. In order to substantiate general fund's costs or
question again, because you all gone all around this. If you collecting money, which we are from the water fund, we raise the rates because of the infrastructure, so we can at one time, and one day we're gonna get Chicago Water once we fix our infrastructure leaks. That was the reason why we went to the second raise. My question is this: why are we taking, and I'm only gonna ask this one more time, you keep averting the question. Why are we taking money that is not related? Because once it gets to the general fund, there is no line item. It's going to be used for general fund expenses, which can go from salaries to anything that's related to general fund. We're taking the money that's in the water fund, that's why you have a separate account. Should be for water fund expenses, not for general fund expenses. That's general fund expenses and water fund are two different things. Why are we taking 300 and where did that, and first of all, and the second thing, where did that amount come from? We never took it before. Anytime we took money out of the water fund, we voted it out. This board did that before. Where did this number come from, 300,000? I don't know where that came from, and why are we pulling out of a fund that's not supposed to go for general? It goes to take care of the public works, the water and sewer, infrastructure changes, infrastructure repairs, not general fund expenses. Now, you do take money out of the water fund to pay some payroll, but that's separate. That's separate. That's not a separate withdrawal that we're taking that has automatically appeared, which never appeared in this budget before. Never appeared in any other budget I've seen where we take X amount of money out of the water fund and we're going to transfer it to the general fund. Where did that figure come from? And I still have not had my answer. Why are we doing it? And if you keep saying that we're doing it because we got expenses, what expenses are we going to anticipate occurring that we have to take money and put it into the general fund?
Last budget cycle, we did transfer from water sewer fund in the amount of approximately about $119,000 from water fund and sewer fund. Sewer fund once again, $119,000 that was transferred over to general fund to cover the cost of general administration. As a general practice, a general fund can charge like an administrative fee. Likewise, for related expenditure, the general fund can charge any enterprise fund or any other fund for that matter, in order to cover their general fund expenditure. Therefore, we are transferring back from water sewer fund into general fund to cover those costs.
Hang on. Trustee, I want to answer your question. Okay. You say we've never done it before.
Okay.
We're voting a 2008 budget. Okay. You weren't on board, and I don't know if to go here. Under sewer and water, there's general fund services. 2008, 2009, 159,400 was moved. 2007, 2008, 142,000, 142,000, and 2007, 2006, 132,000. When you go to general fund services, and again, that's just sewer. If we go to water, it's right here, general fund services, 169.5 in 2008, 151 in 2007, 2006, 141. You said we've never done it before. We have, and that's under line item 742 back in 2008.
Okay. When have we done it since 2009, sir? It has never been done since 2009. That's what I'm asking. But okay,
2009, you have to answer that question about the previous administration.
I'm not asking, but you just talked about the previous administration.
Line 742, general fund services,
About the previous administration.
reimbursement for the value of routine services provided by the general fund to other village funds, including governments, general administration and management, legal services, dispatch services, and facility maintenance. Again, that's an expenditure by line item. And I think you're going to find that maybe we can go back. This is something that the village has always done for general fund services. I mean, you want to talk about 2009, 2010. Yeah, people in there didn't know what they were doing, so.
But you just got.
But you said, Trustee, you said it's never been done before. On
I
the
never done that.
2008, 2009 budget that says the village has done it. And this is not something that is unusual
Yes,
or
it
something,
is.
or something new.
Where,
So,
again, where did you come up with this number? And Mohan just stated that he took out $100-some thousand last year. Where in the accounts payable was it stated that we removed money from the water and sewer fund and inserted it into the general fund on accounts payable? Where did that, I didn't see that. I'm sorry, maybe I'm the only one, but I didn't see that expenditure off accounts payable that we actually had to remove money from, unless it was voted on, which we did a couple of times, for payment of, for the people to get their paychecks, for payroll. We haven't done that twice. We taken money out of the water fund to pay payroll. We did it twice. But just because we did it back then, I'm asking now, it was just stated that we took out $100-some thousand out of the water fund, from the general fund. Where was that, where is that paperwork?
hey, Aaron, real quick. You know, you think about $300,000, $150,000 from sewer, $150,000 from water, which is being proposed in this budget. In 2008, we took out over $300,000 between the two. Again, 2008, 2007, 2006, which I just got done reading the amounts that was used for general fund services. So, again, this is something that that number one, it's budgeted for. Number two, it's something that there's an expenditure line item just for this. So, in fact, talk about $100,000 from last year. I think that was budgeted for last year, right? So, if you look inside the budget from last year, should have probably been there. So,
Mr. Mayor, go to page, please, go to page 17 and page 19 of your budget. Page 17 has transferred the general fund $150,000 and $160,000. That's just for the water fund. Page 19 has another transfer from the sewer fund of $150,000. So that's more than $300,000. That's $460,000.
you know, explain that one? Go ahead.
Give him a mic. Trustee Burton, are you talking about one lump sum, one thing that costs $200-some thousand for anything to add up the cost that taken out?
What are you talking about? Talking about on this budget?
Ask your budget, $300, what did you say?
On your budget, page 17, it says, under the water fund expenditures, transfer to general fund, $150,000. The next line item says transfer to general fund, $160,000. That's just for water. Turn to page 19, under sewer, it says transfer to general fund, $150,000. So if you add those up, it's $450,000, not $300,000.
Well, Mohan is doing that. We just talked about that we transferred money from the water fund to pay things like payroll, yada, yada, yada before. During this budget year. Mohan, you're saying we transferred roughly $195,000 from the water fund to the general fund throughout the year, right?
Correct.
That's throughout the year.
Correct.
So chances are, I mean, I'm not the finance director, but chances are those transfers were done portions throughout the year, the times that they were on the payroll to pay, or on the accounts payable to pay payroll. It wasn't one lump sum of $195,000.
It is one lump sum.
Okay, when did that happen?
Normally it will happen at the beginning of the year.
Okay,
I will transfer upfront whatever is budgeted for. I will not take any permission from either mayor.
right, okay, so,
Then once it is budgeted, it is not, I can transfer right away.
There's nothing here from the last budget. We have it here. There's nothing here from the last budget that we even agreed to transfer anything from those two funds. There's nothing there. It's blank from the last budget, last year's budget. There's nothing there.
Well, he's looking at Trustee Myers did provide me a copy of the ordinance that I was talking about on Tuesday, sir. The ordinance that I was talking about on Tuesday that we did pass a couple of years ago, allowing the mayor to designate to take money out of the water fund and transfer it to other funds. That,
Oh, I'm sorry, there was no transfer last year. Before last year, there was an amount budgeted approximately over $190,000.
Microphone.
Last year, there were no transfers. I apologize for the mistake. Coming back to this year's budget for water and sewer fund. The water fund is transferring, as Mr. Burgess said, $150,000 to general fund, and $160,000 is going back to sewer fund in order to cover the deficit in sewer fund. $160,000 is going back into sewer fund to cover the deficit in sewer fund.
Seriously, all I see is two transfers coming out of one fund.
That is true.
But I'm
That is
saying
true.
it's going back.
No, it is going back into sewer fund.
You're saying that, but it's not in writing.
It's
It's
there.
page number 18. Page 18, transfer water fund 160,000.
On page 18, there is a revenue, or if you will, you can see that there's a transfer of $160,000.
I still don't know why we need, where that number came from, but that's, we've been here long enough.
Because sewer fund is going to have a deficit. I just wanted to cover the deficit in
Where
sewer
did we
fund.
get this number?
Microphone.
We never borrowed, at least last year, the last budget, we didn't borrow.
Last year, yes.
Right,
I
so why
apologize.
do we feel we have, are we borrowing now because we have it in there, because we raised the rates to $750?
No, because the expenditures have increased.
Oh, I know that, but that's what we have, the expenditure increased because we're doing infrastructure. That's what the loan is for.
But again,
But there's no
since the
money in there for, the loan is for that. You got to see that $4 million.
I
But
understand.
why do we need another?
I understand because the engineering costs, we have to come up front from this budget.
Absolutely, that's already in there. I see that cost. That's what the loan is for. That $4 million?
Yeah, before the loan came in, we had the upfront engineering costs. We have paid almost $330.
I'm one person. I'm just one person. I just asked the question, and that's all. I don't see it. I'm one person here. I just had this whole meeting just for me. So I'm just one person. I just asked the question. I didn't see why we needed $300,000 be transferred from here to here. The money that we got in the water fund, so we water fund. General fund and general fund. You don't have no money in general fund, and you don't have no money in general fund.
Unfortunately, the fund doesn't stand on its own moving forward.
The water fund does stand on its own.
Of course, water fund, but not the sewer fund right now. That's the sewer fund.
We raised the rates for that too.
Yes, but it is not that much proportionate, not that much proportionate what we
So
were
we
expecting
raised it,
for.
we didn't raise it enough.
Not enough, unfortunately.
let me come back before you.
You're gonna come back before the people that you raise the water up to $750. Still not providing anything, and we're still working, and then we're gonna raise the sewer, which we already raised the sewer, and then we're gonna come back $4 million.
I think that was discussed when, what's his name?
Yeah.
Bud was here. He said that, if you raise it to this rate, you're still.
That was the water, yes.
But he talked about sewer at the time. He
Okay.
said, if you raise it to this rate, you are still not going to be
Attorney?
Oh, yeah.
So,
A portion of the county is controlled by WRA.
so we're paying the sewer in WRD. And what their rates are is higher than what we're charging residents.
$300,000 for?
There's all kinds of things, man, just whatever the definition was. Again, you talked about how last year there was no money moved, okay? The general fund absorbed cost because that money was not coming in being
Who did you tell it to, Mayor? I didn't know about this. Who did you tell it to? Had you said something, I wouldn't be having this conversation while I've been doing this. I'm looking at.
I tried to meet with you.
No, you didn't.
And you refused to
Please don't say
meet.
that. Don't say that, Mayor.
No,
Please don't say you tried to meet with me at the last minute.
I tried to meet
You
so we
see
could go-
me
so we
every,
could go over
you got
this.
my number, you see me up in the village, I'm up in the village, I'm more than you are. I
got
go
that.
there every day.
Yeah,
But-
about that.
But don't say you tried to meet with me. I'm asking, when was this brought up? Now you bring it up, well, now. All I'm asking is why are we doing this? Yes, we have an excess in the village, water and sewer fund because we raised the water rates to $7.50 per thousand. Yes, we did. When we went to $5.50 as Bud stated, that was just to cover cost then. $7.50 was supposed to take care of infrastructure. Now that we have a little bit more in there, why are we pulling out of there to go to the general fund? That's what I'm talking about. I don't see everybody should do that. But again,
Probably because of years of going from the general fund to help the water fund, which was so far behind. He talked about the fact that the rate that we were charging and with the amount of water loss that we had, we were basically paying people to use water because we had to take money out of the general fund.
so now we're going to take it out and put it back. We're going to take it back. We're going to put it back.
The general fund is what we use to pay most of our bills. Part of the reason why we're in such a deficit is that for years we've been taking from the general fund to help keep the water fund breaking even. It's just like with anything else, you're going to want to put back.
But trustee, you just stated that for years we've been taking out of the general fund to pay the water, right? Then why would we take it out of the water fund to pay the general fund?
Because now-
Years, no, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about years before we just got talking about that. We have taken money out of the water fund to pay the general fund. So the general fund was paying the water fund, so now the water fund is paying the general fund.
I think what Mohammed needs to do is the trustees.
Reimbursement.
Or we reimburse. Who knows, but who knows how much that reimbursement is? There's nothing in
Why do
writing.
we pay this man?
What? There's nothing in there.
That's his job.
Yes.
He's telling you what's happening.
No,
He's
no,
telling you
they
what
still
we're
haven't
doing.
told me, they have not told me, they gave me.
I mean, I understand.
I think Mohammed, what we need to do is, because we started off the conversation saying the village has never done this before. That's what started off this conversation. I think what we need to do is kind of, especially for some of the newer trustees, put together a report for the last, let's look at the last 10 years for sewer and water and show the trustees how much money has been taken out to transfer back into the general fund for both sewer and water. Again, we brought up about the previous administration, but there was, we know why that happened. So again, it started off saying this has never happened before. So I think that the board needs to understand exactly. And I think what would be good is to show what was taken out of sewer, what was taken out of water, and then give us a third column, say total for the year. And it should be interesting to see, are we going up, which everyone else is going up, or are we just about the same? I mean, I just gave you 2008 numbers. 2008, we took out more than $300,000 between the two accounts.
But that's not what that's for, man. The reason why we have the excess in the water fund is not to pay back the general fund, is to move forward with fixing the infrastructure in the village.
All right, Mon.
Can I reiterate one thing? Normally when the funds are established, normally you will have general fund, fire fund, police pension fund, so on and so forth. Enterprise funds will have their inception or the beginning from general fund, because general fund is the main operating fund for any village, town, or city. Mostly, the general fund will upfront water or sewer fund or enterprise fund to start their beginning. The initial capital will be coming in by the general fund. not from solar water fund itself. The capital that is required by the enterprise fund will come from general fund, because the general fund is the general operating fund for any village or any city or any municipal government. Therefore, it is needless to say that general fund can borrow or can get transferred from water source fund. There will be, there is nothing wrong in it principally. We can transfer the necessary expenditure that is incurred by the general fund on behalf of other funds.
All right. I think we beat this in the ground enough. Let's go to miscellaneous. It talks about the donations and makes some assumptions again. I just have here again. Sauk Village follows the guidelines of Gatsby standards. In addition, Sauk Village is a governmental entity and can receive donations. We'll put down examples. Our police department are out there doing cop on the roof. They're out there on the corners. Our fire department does boot day. So we have people out there getting donations. Again, this was brought up because of the fireworks, if I remember right. Volunteers collecting donations so that village residents can enjoy fireworks and celebration of our independence is acceptable and is budgeted. So when the donation funds, so they can be deposited and the invoice can be paid through expenditures. That's where you see the estimated funds coming in. That's through donations for fireworks. You see it also on the following page for expenditures of going out and paying. So again, the village can take donations. So we get down to concessions. You want to know why concessions are lower, if I remember right? See your anticipated fiscal year and needs some explanation on why you anticipate less. Now again, anticipate a little bit less. We put a first major cost into the Parks and Recs. They've went out, they've purchased their concessions. So now it gets to the point where it just pretty much pays for itself. They're able to go out there, they're able to, they sell a pop, they can buy a pop. Where when Trustee Poskett first took it over, it was starting from new, going in, filling pop machines and purchasing candy. And there was a lot that there was no money for, and he had to rebuild everything. So again, this is a self-sustaining thing. The village doesn't make a ton of money. I don't think we make anything on it. If we do, it's very little. We try to make sure that it's pretty reasonable for the kids to be able to buy a candy bar, to buy a hot dog, to buy a can of pop. So we try to make sure it's pretty reasonable, and at the same time, we can go out and buy more. So that, again, that's why it's that much less. The general fund expenditures. Anyone have any questions on this one? Again, these were on 18-month budget processes. Again, the figures are not correct, they're skewed. Budget year, budget, Sauk Village only had one 18-month budget. That was in 2009, 2010. If I recall, those numbers not even there. It starts at 2011, 2012. Get into water fund revenues. Based on our proposed budget, city revenues are overestimated. These figures are correct. We'll have it back and double check everything. They're based on estimation versus billed revenue. When you look at that, you have to go and understand that. The budget is based on billed revenue, not collected revenue as required by Gatsby. We follow the Gatsby standards. So that's what's important to make sure we understand. Talk about the IEPA loan. Again, under revenues, page number 16, the net IEPA loan is budgeted as well as the net expenditures on page number 17 of your budget. So make sure that we point out where that information was. Talk about water bill collections. We've already discussed this at board meeting, but can I refresh your memory? This is already being addressed and was brought to the board by Trustee Myers, probably about 3 or 4 months ago. So in fact, it was right about the time we brought in the new collection agency. Can I give the board an update on July 18th? I had a meeting with the village's current collector, and I met with the previous bill collector. And we're working on getting it in that comptroller's program, which Trustee Myers brought to the board. working with both of them to make sure they provide us all the data that we need so that we can finish filling out all the proper documentation to get it turned in. It is a lengthy process, and one of the things we talk about is what can we do to expedite the process. And one good thing is, at first when we changed collection agencies, there was a little bit of a rift. Was able to work out that rift, and we've got our previous collection agency is willing to work with us, and they're getting the information that we need. They have it, it's ours, so they're not provided. So I've got a meeting again with them. I think it's next week, I wrote my calendar, maybe the week after. But they went back and they're gathering all the information to give to us. So again, both collection companies are gathering the information that's requested through the comptroller's office. A meeting will be scheduled between the collector's office and the village of Sauk Village once we have all documents required. They're willing to come into your community and go over your documentation, show you what needs to be done. So we're working closely with them. Again, it's a great recommendation, but it's something that we've already started. Again, and that one came as a cost savings initiative through Trustee Myers. What was it, about 2 or 3 months ago, Trustee? I lose track of time. So, alrighty. Sewer fund, some of this stuff was repetitive. Again, we use gassing and INL production projections. Talk about the $23,000 for Enbridge. These are funds that were presented to the village at the board meeting by Enbridge for repairs to Jeffrey Avenue. That's what those funds are being used for. That road, we know that Jeffrey Avenue is going to be repaired from Sauk Trail all the way to 217th, I think it's place, which is right by the post office. We've already got all the figures and everything to go the rest of the way, all the way to Peterson Avenue, how much we need, and try to figure out how much $23,000 can get repaired. So those funds will be spent during this budget year for the Jeffrey Road repairs, just as it was presented to the board. So once the work is done, I will be bringing Enbridge back out, and we will be going down the road to show them exactly where their $23,000 went. But that work, I would say, probably going to start pretty soon, because we just approved Gallagher last week to start that road construction at the beginning. So we'll see grant money not grant money, I'm sorry, the Enbridge money for getting the road further down about the same time, probably. Talks about professional services, most of the $550,000. Village has for years had a breakdown of expenditures by line items. Again, this falls under line 726, professional services. If you look below, this is what the trustee was recommending, that we go through and put down every single professional service that we have. Line 726, which will provide you, especially because some of these new trustees don't have this information, a definition by line item, what they're for. But line 726 is professional services. All contractual costs that result from the use of a professional and paraprofessionals for services rendered who are compensated on a job or retainer basis includes attorneys, auditors, engineering services, and medical services. So your professional services under line 726 is exactly where it's going. If you get to the point where you want to see a breakdown of who we're paying underneath there, I would suggest you go talk to Mohan. He can run a report and give you a breakdown. Okay, under here we've paid these professional services. And as a village, there's a lot of times you run into multiple or a lot of professional services. We have an insurance plan. The village has a TPA, third-party administrator. Third-party administrator, if there's ever a lawsuit or anything because of an injury, the TPA will provide the village with an attorney. Again, those attorneys would fall under professional services. So you could have multiple attorneys, which we've seen in the past years, a lot of attorneys that fall under professional services. A lot of them come from a third-party administrator. The village has currently just the overseas stir, which is our program. Yes.
Last budget, you budgeted for $7. What made you pump it all the way this year? Last year, you budgeted so much for Robinson Engineering.
gotten all these cases off their books. I think we're only down for, I think probably 2 or 3 cases. That was on my head. I can't give you a number tonight. But when I came in here, we had 2 handfuls of cases in courts. It was unbelievable. So what happens is you really have to pay for those cases. We've got a lot of large cases. They're behind us now. We just got done settling the large case with the Davis and Salisbury case. Again, you figure that right there costs the village $100,000 right on top of that. $50,000 for each one of those cases that we had paid. Not including what the, what's that?
Use your mic, please.
$100,000 the village had to pay. $50,000 self-insured for each one.
They had 2 lawsuits.
And they were paid through the insurance company. So you talk about reducing what we're paying.
We've had, believe us, had 2 lawsuits separate.
We're all done.
I understand that, but you said $100,000, that's $200,000. We had, the first one was $50,000 for Sandy County. That was $50,000, they had to pay up front. Okay, then we came back this year with $50,000 for him and $50,000 for Becky Salisbury. And another, I think it's another $50,000 for Becky for the second time. She had 2 lawsuits too, so. Yeah, there's more than that, but my question is, we still owe the lawyer. Even though we paid them, we still owe them $20,000, but we put that already over. Where's provisions to take care of that before we move on with this?
And I think we're going to cover that here. So you talk about looking at the aging report and what we have, okay? Again, we follow GASB standards, and we'll be going over this again, so I think we were talking or covering this. Under GASB standards, you only budget what you're going to spend in the following year. Now, if we were under GAAP would say, yes, you're supposed to go ahead and rebudget that stuff, but the previous bills had already been budgeted. Under GASB, you don't take something that has already been budgeted, especially anything that has already occurred or
What happens to that money?
we continue to pay that.
No, you just got to say.
You don't rebudget for it again. You don't put it in budget.
Under GASB, you just stated that we're only going to pay for what we have.
When you're doing your budget, as you're setting up your budget,
Then how do you pay for the thing that we?
because it has already occurred, you still owe it. It's already occurred.
Where's that money come from?
Still
If
gets paid.
if that budget session is over, if that budget time is over, and we still owe X amount of money, where is it that we're going to start paying that off before we move forward?
You know, and trustee, again, sometimes when it comes to accounting practices, it may not seem, right to us. I look at accounting being like the English language. We say something in English all the time, and we find out when we say it in English, you're saying it wrong. But I think you bring up a good point. But I guess the question is, you can go back to 2009 and say that we knew when we were $500,000 in 2009. That money has never been budgeted again into the next budget. And again, it's because of the standards that we follow.
My suggestion was, why do we continue to do that? If we owe $200,000, $500,000, $1 million going into this budget session, or going into this budget year, there should be some provision to at least knock some of that debt down in this new budget. Somewhere that we should itemize X amount of money. You're talking about transferring money over. I would have a problem transferring money over. It's going to help pay for the aging report. If it's going to help pay for that. But to move forward with a different one, you still owe X amount of money. There's nothing in that budget that states that we're going to pay off some of that money. Now, you're going to incur another debt with the new budget because things happen. And you already got money that you already know that you owe for. Now, the next year, you're going to have last year, year before that one, and the new one all in one. That was my first concern. That's why I wrote that. And the last thing, I didn't get a chance to state it. If we're going to transfer money from different accounts, where is it that it shows that we should not get the consent from the board? That's what they're there for. The board should give at least consent to vote on that we're going to transfer this money.
You're voting on a budget, and it's inside.
I'm talking about when we transfer money. It was stated that I can transfer X amount of money, like it was stated early part of this week. We can transfer X amount of money. We don't have to let the board know right now because it falls into whatever. If the board is in charge of, trustees in charge of the money, to make sure that the money is allocated correctly, then they should be at least informed that that money was being transferred from whatever entity it was to another one in writing. It should be, and at least give the board information to let you know you were doing it. Even if you don't ask them to vote on it, you should at least let the board know that you transfer money. That was just a statement. All right, go ahead.
And it falls, your question is just a little bit further down. It says that, again, the amounts have already occurred and accounted or booked as of April 30th, 2014. Again, the way we're doing it is correct based on gas fee standards. If the village followed the GAP, I think it's called GAP or GAAP, then amounts still owed would have to be budgeted for. However, the village's budget is based on a probable rather than a cash basis, according to the gas fee, which the village.
Is that right? I mean,
Maybe you should go and ask maybe you should go back and ask the governmental accounting standards board if it's correct.
Is it right to go forward, even though we know we owe, to go forward with the new one and we'll take care of the other one when we can? That doesn't, you're laughing at that, but that doesn't even seem right.
I'm not
I
laughing
mean,
at
that
them.
doesn't seem right. I don't care who gas, whoever it may be. If we still owe somebody, we should have somewhere in our budget for provision to pay some of that debt off, along with what we're gonna incur that particular budget year.
And we have been paying off. Again, if you look at
But
when
it's not in the budget, there's nothing in that budget.
again, what ends up happening is prior bills that are sitting back there are getting paid. I mean, if you look at your accounts payable, you'll see that we paid, again, I'm just throw something out. When you look at it, it's going to say pay the attorney for January. It tells you that those back bills are being paid. We don't stop in April and say, okay, everything prior to April, we're not going to pay you. We'll start paying you from May on. So prior things are getting paid as the money's coming in.
And you're right. We're paying bills that we incurred last year with this year's money, which we've already budgeted for something else. We didn't budget to pay last year's bill with this year's money. This year's money started May 1st.
So
we're paying bills. It should be something starting in this new budget that we should start putting money aside for that reason. For whatever we get it from, it, we, like you said, we transfer money from A to B, fine. Use it for that reason. But not just pay as will, and somebody have to write us a check, or we have to get somebody this, we'll pay that. But the things happen, all those things don't happen. Now that's how the debt grows more and more. It should be something in there.
But trustee, we've shown for the past 2 years that debt has gone down. We've proven it. The last 2 years.
But you're using money that was allocated to something else to pay that off.
But the last 2 years we brought that down.
But you brought it down with money that was allocated to something else.
Okay, so
there was no new revenue coming in. We got that revenue from the water fund, which was increased to pay something else.
But trustee, you know exactly what a budget is. A budget is projected amounts that you're going to spend.
Realistic
So if we don't spend all the money that a department has budgeted for it, again, especially when it's coming through the general fund, we can take those funds and pay off.
That's not going to happen.
We've proven for the last 2 years.
If you tell the police department you got X amount of money, they're going to try to use every dime. They're supposed to. They're not going to, we're going to give you back $100,000.
No, I disagree. They're not supposed to.
They're going to
That's
do
the wrong
it.
thing.
They're going to do it. I
It's-
have never seen a department say, we didn't use all the money, you're going to give it back. I've never seen that since I know this board. I don't know if you have. I've never seen that. They used that and did some. Everybody has used over and above it, but the budget always been over. There was no money that we put into the next budget because we had excess amount for the next year.
And you never do. There's never money that goes into the next budget.
It never happened.
No, but I'm saying even if we had a surplus, you know.
But I never seen one. I never seen one. Everything.
Yes, I'm sorry, trustee Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that in response to what Trustee Burgess said about, I'm almost losing train of thought so much down hall. In response to what Trustee Burgess said about we should be paying for bills that we have in the past and not just acting like we're not going to pay them anything just to keep on going. Is that basically what you were saying? One part, Trustee Burgess?
That we should make provision.
To pay for bills that we have and not just keep
At
budgeting
least have
going
something
on.
in there to say,
Go
well,
back
we're
and at
gonna
least
do
try to
this.
catch them up.
We should have something in there, in the budget,
Okay, I think one thing that we
And
did
those are the
do,
debt service aging report, the aging report. That's-
are you just talking about the age report?
The aging
Hopefully, I
report,
thought you meant in
that's the
general.
money- that's the money that we owe in prior year, that's what that is, the aging report.
Okay, but one thing that we did, that I did hear the mayor say, the gaming machines, the money that's gonna be coming in, we're gonna start letting all that money go for
Pensions.
the pensions that we weren't paying, right? And then I'm just asking also, is it possible, Mayor, that from today forward, if the finance director can inform the board if he's transferring money via email or text, to at least let us know that it's being done? I don't think that that's too much to ask, and I think that also, when the mayor appointed trustee Burgess after the election to be with finance, like I'm with codes and everybody's with something, then that's a good thing for you to question the finance director and talk with the mayor. That's what you're all supposed to do. At the end of the day, we want the best budget for the residents, and I don't care if we be here all night long. I have a problem when people keep saying, okay, we've been talking about this too long. No, we're not talking about it too long. We get to the bottom of it and get something done constructive. You know, all of you have been on the board a long time. You know, this is your area of expertise. This is what you do. So we need to talk about it as long as it takes to get it right, or as near as right as we can get it. And I think that it's constructive what we're doing, and I'm glad that we went on with the meeting tonight. I can see a lot of things happening for the good. But those are the two things that I wanted to say at this time. We are going by paying some of the bills that's just been sitting dormant, and we weren't making any payments on it by using the gaming machine money. And then the mayor said, Trustee Burgess, that from today forward, he will let the finance director give us information when he's transferring from funds from the water department and the other department transferring money. He'll let us know from now on. So that's a good progress. Thank you.
Trustee Lees.
I guess I'm just a little confused. We had this original analysis. We'll go back to this again. We have your analysis of the analysis. We talked about, I'm hearing lots of things that were brought up and lots of concerns and blah, blah, blah. The only thing I'm seeing, and like I asked for last Tuesday, was, okay, this is a problem, what's the solution? The only solution I'm seeing is that the board needs to work collaboratively to come up with something.
Long-term solution.
Long-term
Almost every one
solution.
of them.
There's no, okay, this is a problem. I've analyzed it. This is a problem. This is how we fix it. There's none of that. Now, I think as a board, okay, fine, sure, let's do this. But that's why we had, my background on finance. That's why we have a finance director. That's why we have accounting people. That's why we pay people to do this, so they can present to us the needed information. I guess I'm still just a little, and I'm all for talking things out. I understand why we're having this meeting. I agree with Trustee Washington on this. But I still just a little confused as to why we have so many problems and no solutions. In your packet, we're having explanations, but again, I'm still confused as to what, if every solution is the board needs to work collaboratively to have a long-term solution, that's going to take a long time to make a long-term solution, because as far as I know, and as far as I've been over since I've been on the board, this is all past practices. We would have to change the entire structure of our financing system, everything that we do. Because everything that we've done since I've been on the board is this similar makeup. We've stated how many times that we've robbed Peter to pay Paul. We used to take out $500,000 loans every year. We had the credit rating to do that. We were able to pay it back then. Those were the good old days. But we used to take that $500,000 loan every year to pay what we needed to do to kind of keep us afloat while tax money came in. This is not something that we haven't done before. And I'm not saying that just because we've done it in the past, means we should continue to do it. Fine. Perfect. So for the 2014-15 budget year, I mean, we are where we are. 2015-16, let's start looking at ways to maybe change. I'm not going to be the one to present any changes, because I mean, that's not my area of expertise. You want to know about student government day? I got rate changes if we needed, or we don't pass the budget and incur fines. Again, this is our basic situation. We're not being presented with options. We have problems, no options, but we've got explanations. I'm just immensely.
Well, I remember sitting here probably 6 or 7 years ago, and trustee was probably the board too, we got upstairs, sat there and said, we're going to try to put $20,000 a year, $20,000 this year into a special account and start building up a fund balance. We didn't make it 6 months into the budget year, and there was no money in there. Again, when you talk about looking for ways to put money aside to go after this aging report, I'm all for it. I mean, I know Mohawk would love not to have so many bill collectors calling and asking more to make a payment. You know, the question is, I look at the board and say, okay, where are we getting the money from, number one? Number two, what are we going to cut? And because something's going to be cut to put money inside. And, right. And laying people off is not acceptable. I mean, how many times did we hear, the only way we're going to balance budget, we lay someone off? How many times did we hear last year, or the year before, we brought 7 new police officers on? Oh, you're not going to make it, you're going to get laid off again. You know, we still have 4 of the 7 still here. We would have 7 if the other 3 would have left us. Again, laying people off is not an option. You need personnel to run your community. You need to make sure you have police officers on the street. You need to make sure you have public works employees that are out there doing their job. When it comes to water, when it comes to water main breaks, trees, lights, and everything that they do, you need to have personnel. I mean, we can sit back here and say, okay, we're going to lay off half of the police department, half of public works, and we'll put that money off to the side to pay off the aging report. Well, what ends up happening? Number one, you start losing services for your residents, and number two, things don't get done. In this budget, we're looking at, again, going to increase the fire commissions and bringing more people on board, especially on the police department side. It's a must.
Okay, man, you just, and the trustee just stated that I brought this before the board. All I heard tonight, you talking about, we were trying to, and I did say, be collaborative with the board. Not sit here and nitpick and pull everything that's in there out and criticize it. That's why things don't get done, because we talked for almost 2 hours about criticizing everything I wrote down there instead of saying, okay, I'm sorry. No, I went through the budget intelligently and told everyone what excuse me?
Absolutely.
And I told everyone what wasn't there. We could talk about trying to make improvements on that. That was the reason why I did that. Not to have it rebuttal comment. I mean, that's because I stated in the very beginning, we didn't have to go through this. We could have voted on this last week. We didn't have to have this meeting. Now, the second thing, as far as layoffs, we laid off 2 people already. So don't say we haven't laid off. We laid off the chief, the deputy chief for fire, and we laid off personnel from the police department. So don't say we haven't laid off. We're not going to lay off. We've done that
Last year.
We still, don't, but you make it sound as if I'm not going to lay off. We've done that. We laid them off. That money, is done that.
We laid salary personnel off, yes.
They were people that still got paid. It was still a layoff.
And
It was still,
we've also
if it looks like a duck,
police chief.
quacks like a duck, it's a duck. We laid them off.
We've also removed a police chief from here. We've also removed.
No, we didn't remove a police chief. We just did, we eliminated the position until, you were there when that happened.
Eliminated.
Okay, you were there when that happened.
A village manager. A village manager.
And we didn't lay off. We got rid of that person. So don't say we didn't lay off, Mayor. We have the board has voted to lay off personnel. Only thing, I'm still waiting. You're talking about the solution. We're just arguing back and forth. What is their concrete? The reason why this is here, what's concrete to say, okay, well, we're not going to use gas. We're not going to use gas. We're going to use gas. Regardless, in the realm of things, we need to find a solution. This is not the solution to sit here and nitpick every little thing that I had and took my time to try to bring the attention to the board. That's all it was, to bring it to the attention. You're the one that tried to, oh, well, now he's trying to, who's grandstanding? Who's trying to keep these people there for 2 hours talking about something that all I did was bring up things. If you go right to the end, to the summary, you can see exactly what it is that I asked us to try to come up with. But every little thing to go over this and to have this diatribe going back and forth, let's pull this out, because he said this, you know, that's not right, and he said that, that's not right. The concept for this is to make us aware that we need to come up with something. And then you said past practices, that book that you have in your hand from 2008, 2009 is this thick. That's how the budget used to come. You were on the board, Trustee Williams was on the board. When we have projections of what this budget and what we're going to try to ascertain. Not that it happened, but we had it in writing that we were going to try to ascertain this, and we were going to try to do this. That was when it was bounded. We haven't had a bounded copy since then. Since then, we haven't had a bounded copy.
And then the budget was presented by the voters.
But I'm saying, so don't say, that's what I was trying to go back to. Have projections bounded, at least we have a roadmap. If we get to that point, we have a roadmap to try to sustain us and try to push us to that point. We haven't had a roadmap since 2009, and you know that. We haven't had a roadmap. That's all I was trying to do. That's all I was trying to present, that we need to have a roadmap just in case, so we can have something that we can present to outsiders and show, hey, this is what we're going to try to do, and we need you to bring your businesses in here. And this, but to hand them this budget the way it is, it's just a budget, just numbers. But if we have projections, we say, well, we're going to try to do this year. We're going to try to take this money and do that. Like you stated before, it's just numbers. But if you have projections, if you show that this is where we're going to try to move towards in the future, that's fine. And that's what that you have in your hand. We haven't done that, and that's all I was trying to do. Not trying to sit here and nitpick or grass down or nothing. We need to go back and do what we did back then, and that's all I was saying.
And again, this report, what I'm trying to do is answer questions. I mean, let's go to the next one. Other contracted services, there's no explanation. Again, we have a breakdown. There's a breakdown for expenditures by line items. Again, you go to line 768, other contractor services that do not logically fit under any 700 service line item miscellaneous. Again, we have definitions. Again, you talk about other contracted services. Again, there's no explanation. Here's the explanation you were looking for. Again, it falls under our explanations that we have for line items. So, again, a lot of stuff we're trying to answer is, you know, when it gets back to how does the village do your budget? You know, we talk about the gas fee. That's how the village does their budget. We talk about the 2007 bonds, which is next. You know, it talks about it requires a tax levy. Your 2007 bond comes underneath corporate property taxes. This is where it's at. Again, you asked a question about the 2007 bonds. We are answering these questions so that the board knows what's going on. So you get down to, you know, your questions. If no impact fees are budgeted, is the village supplementing normal property taxes? The answer is no. You should say, will the village be abating 2007 bonds this year? I'm sorry, yes. The first one's yes. The second one is no. I think it's up there. You know, how will the village make up the shortfall? Again, we use everything every year. We do the same thing. The 2007 bond levy included in the proposed budget. The tax revenue is where? It's under the 2013-2014 tax levy under corporate taxes. So again, answering these questions, trying to get them out. But again, this is something we could have done in the office back and forth, but you wanted to meet with your fellow trustees. You didn't think that you wanted to meet with Mohan and I to try to answer these questions.
Not the last minute.
So,
Not the last minute. We doing the same thing now, but you still.
First he says he will, then he won't.
You're not going to augment or amend this budget right now. You're not going to do it. You're going to take the next step, which is item number 3, and ask for a vote for this budget.
well, we're answering all the questions that you presented to the board.
You didn't need to do that.
No, we do.
Why did we sit here for 2 hours? You could have went to number 3 and just said, hey,
Yeah, then you'll be coming out tomorrow saying we're jamming numbers. I'm giving you the opportunity to go through this, and we are answering the questions that you presented.
Answering the questions is not solving the problem. No, the problem will be solved.
All right, one at a time.
They understand.
Now we understand. We have to explain it. Everything you want to do, now we explain it right there.
What have you changed?
We never started about changes, it's about explaining your findings.
Mine is self-explanatory. What did you change?
He's answering the questions that you're asking about the discrepancies
What are we
that
gonna
you
change from
found.
the budget that we get ready to vote on? What are you gonna change?
We're still in
What are you
discussion.
gonna change?
We're in discussion about it.
What are you recommending we change, trustee?
Yes, thank you.
What is your recommendation? You say, you are asking the board what we're going to change.
Yeah.
This was your
I put it up.
analysis.
Those are my, that's not.
Every one of your analysis says it's a long-term solution.
I make suggestions.
Use the mic.
Here.
We want you to use the mic.
What suggestion?
I made suggestions, that's all I did.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, we're together.
I made suggestions, that's all I did. That's all I did, and I gave it to the board, because I was asked to give it to the board. That's it. I didn't know we were gonna, I thought this review was gonna be, the board read what they have, and do they have any suggestions? No. This meeting was, let's nitpick what he went through, took the time to do, and yes, that's what you did. Where's your suggestion?
First of all.
Where's anybody else's
Okay, let
suggestion?
me talk then. You can't talk while I'm talking. First of all, you came up with all of these suggestions and concerns, and I think it is a great thing the way that the mayor analyzed everything that you wanted to know.
Yeah.
I can speak for me and Jeff. We don't know how to answer all these questions on 22 pages that you had. We don't, excuse me,
All right.
we don't know how to answer these questions, but the mayor knows how to answer them, and I personally feel you've been working with finance, why don't you and Mohan get together every month and go through this so that they don't get to this point? I think y'all need to meet more.
Please don't say that, because I have done that. I have talked to Mohan. But things were done, like I stated before, without even the board's approval. I brought that to the board last week, and what happened? Still voting on it.
And they said starting today, Mohan is going to inform us when he transfer money from place to place. You can't go in the past. All you can do is start from today and move forward. But I think that it's an excellent thing that you brought all of these concerns up and that you went through and found all of this. And I think it's an excellent thing that the mayor is addressing them all and we're sitting here listening. I'm learning a lot sitting here listening to what you wrote and what his answer is. It's giving us a lot of illumination and insight on what's going on. You all said that the committee of the whole was to hash things out and to talk about things. That's what we need to do no matter how long it takes. That's what we need to do, but you and Mohan need to do it on a more regular basis.
We've got something to say.
Trustee Ray.
Thank you. Just a couple of observations. Number one, we talked about the 2008, 2009 budget that you had, that was nice and pretty and bound and everything. Was that the budget that we had $500,000 worth of checks in the back because we projected?
No, this is one of the last ones that Dick Dietrich did.
Right. And when we came in
2009.
2009, and Lewis Howard sat there, what did Lewis Howard say? The budget that you had last year with Dick Dietrich and Bev and all the high and holy people of the village of Sauk Village who did the budget so great and who we always got those gap awards. Every student government day we got nice little plaques for our budgets and our audits and everything else. Those people, when they left, we had $500,000 worth of bills in a drawer off of this projected budget. So, here's my question. It's bound, it's pretty, it's nice, it's got projections. It's still wrong. We projected that we were going to have this, and it was great to show for economic development, and it was great to show people that this is what we think is going to happen, but guess what? It didn't happen. And things didn't get paid because we didn't have money. The reality is that it was smoke and mirrors. We are now living in what really is happening in Sauk Village. That's what it is. That's why I said, I think 26 minutes ago, that for this year, the budget's been done. We only have two options. Pass it and fix it later, if need be, or don't pass it and have fines. There's only two options. I'm all for bringing in more people to have us analyze our financial practices, but it's not going to happen for this year. And if your recommendation, Trustee Burgess, is for the board to collaboratively come up with a decision, a long-term solution, the long-term solution is not going to go into effect in this fiscal year. It needs to be projected. We need to have time to actually analyze it, to actually look at it, to actually make real, true-to-life changes that will happen, not just immediately, not just for this budget, but that we can carry on into the future. That's the only way we're going to break this bad habit. The only way. And I think it's really something that we should look I think it's really a great idea, because there were some questions that you brought up. Okay, fine. The mayor's taking the opportunity to kind of explain them, or however you feel. If you feel it's negative, okay, fine. But one might say the fact that when the budget is presented, you come back, 14 days later, I don't remember how many days later we talked about this, with this packet of problems. You had a rebuttal to the budget. All this is the mayor's rebuttal to your rebuttal. Anybody who thinks that it's not common practice for somebody to present something and somebody else present a different argument, that's our judicial system. That's the way things work. You know, when you're running for trustee, as we all have, you sit up here, you know, you go to the forum and you have rebuttals and you have a discussion. That's all this is. Don't take it so personally. If there's questions, you put them up there. They say this is trying to answer the questions. And to think that, you know, nobody should have to come back, or nobody should be able to come back with maybe some possible answers to questions, I think is ludicrous. Because there's not one person sitting at this table that doesn't realize that, yes, your problems or concerns, I'm sure were posted in some sort of social media. This is going to be posted in some social media, because this is how Sauk Village is now. When something happens, it goes out for everybody to see, instead of being handled here appropriately. So can we please continue to handle it, well, let's not continue, because we're not doing it appropriately. We try to look at what you suggested, look at what the mayor's presented, and then make a decision on number 3. Vote yes, vote no, let's vote.
Trustee, I just want to say this. I mean, I said we should have did this at the very beginning.
Yes, I agree.
And as far as this being presented in some social media, this is 20-some pages. No, I gave every, as a matter of fact, I emailed it to each one of the trustees, because I didn't have a way to try to download this and pass it out and take copies. So I emailed it to every trustee, and the mayor and the clerk. I emailed everything that I had. As far as giving it to anybody in the media, I gave it to the media because he asked for a copy of what it was that I was talking about. Had that been posted in the papers? No. I don't think the newspaper going to want to take time to put all this in there. Well, I mean, that's the only media I know as far. This is not. I have never seen this out there. But then again, I'm not out there to know what everything goes on. But if somebody else posted that out there for someone to see, only one that I gave copies to were the people on this board and the clerk. That's it, and the newspaper. That's it. I haven't given it to anyone else. So, you know, that's the only thing. But you're right. It's 9:10. I would love to just go to item number 3 and go ahead and bring it forth for a motion to be voted on. If that's what
We're almost done. Let's finish going through this real quick, okay? Operating supplies, there's a question about why last year was $25,000, why this year we budgeted less. This was due to a one-time expense for delineators at the CN crossings at both at Torrance and Cottage Grove. So again, bringing this number back down to where it needs to be. So,
Mr. Mayor, please stop right there. You said the operating expenses for last year was 20. The delineators were paid for by CN. We get paid for that.
Right. Because the CN paid.
Right, CN paid that.
Microphone.
Microphones go around, please.
this,
But you said that the CN gave us 25,000.
Definitely.
Okay.
CN gave us 25,000. I charged it to the street department. Then not borrowed, I transferred the money from CN department to pay for this service.
Okay, so they sent us a bill?
Yes.
Oh, they didn't pay for it ahead of time?
They didn't pay.
Okay. They sent us a bill, but then they sent us a check. So those are the transactions that I'm not privy to, that I don't see. I didn't see that we got a check.
but trustee, you could have asked.
Mayor, I've asked, Mayor, please don't say that. Please don't say that.
We could have
Mayor, last
we
week.
could have met on Monday
Mayor,
and went over these
Mayor,
questions.
please don't say I should have asked. I did not know last week that we made an expenditure for something that we shouldn't have unless we got consent from the village. Had I not said that, so if I don't ask, we just gonna do it and then, what, I gotta come back later on? There were things done last week, and I'm not gonna get into that, but there were of prior to that vote. We should have been made aware of it. But then when I just happened to ask about it, oh, we did that. How would I know to ask unless I know it happened?
Didn't Jim
All right.
present that at a board meeting?
What's that?
We talked about, because these are for the broken delineators, right?
No, this is for the first half of the meeting. The new delineators.
Didn't he talk about?
They're reimbursing the ones that got broke, they're sending us new ones.
Right.
The ones that already broke.
There isn't a new delineator.
But in the beginning, didn't he say?
They were taken.
Right.
And they did pay for it. But the village,
We had,
right, so we paid for
I
it.
didn't know that happened.
And then, or either we got the money first, we get the money first and we pay for it. Which one?
As soon as we got the money from CN, we paid back to the bank.
Right.
But we paid for them first.
No, we didn't pay.
They paid the village took the money and paid for it.
CN paid the village.
Okay.
We got the bill from Weber and Florida for the new meters. Then we paid back the new meters from the Florida.
All right, so again, that's just for a one-time expense.
And normally, we don't get the check, we get wire transfer, and just recording the general ledger, that's the wire transfer from CN. We don't get the hard check.
All right. Utilities, question about why it was budgeted, the way it was budgeted. Again, last year we did spend more, but look at the winter stuff that we had last year. So we spent more in all of our departments. We had to have warming centers in the fire department, police department had to work extra man hours. Public Works had to get out there. They were plowing snow every single weekend. So there's a lot of things that we paid extra for this last winter. Again, we're going back to normal conditions. And then you get into the improvements for the grant that we're expecting. And again, we don't have specifics at this time. However, it's included in this year's budget. The board will receive additional information as we get the specifics. And as everyone knows, when you're dealing with a grant, everything has to be spelled out exactly. So we're anticipating this grant, and it's budgeted for as we anticipated. Police safety, this was a hard one. This was discussed during the budget hearing on June 30th. The board was informed that the budget does include funds for police and fire commission to start the hiring list. Once the police and fire complete the list, it's estimated to take, it's estimated to take about 7 to 8 months. Then the village will begin the hiring process, which should fall within the next budget year. So again, we're already into this budget year. Once the board approves it, we'll go on to the police and fire commission. Tell them to go ahead and start the list. They have to go through the whole entire hiring process. They have to go through the getting resumes, going through the interviews, having the physicals after you have the polygraphs. So that there's a lot of work going on there. Again, Sauk Village filled vacancies. This has been just over a year ago. By hiring 7 new officers. Again, as for raises, all this was discussed at June 30th meeting, and all negotiated FOP contract raises are included in this budget. So, and then the anticipated raises for the dispatchers is also included in this budget. So, everything, some of the questions were out there. It's all included in this budget. We talked about overtime. Department heads have been challenged in the department to lower overtime. You know, a municipality is no different than corporate world, and if departments go over budget, the department heads will be required to provide explanation to the board. Just to borrow a statement, you know, just because things are things, I'm saying overtime, were past practices doesn't mean that they were correct and they should simply be continued. You know, I'm not ready for another $100,000 back into this budget because they used to do it. I mean, the department heads are challenged to reduce overtime. They've been challenged to do more with less. You know, and I think I'll probably say that earlier or later that, you know, this is no different than our families and our residents. Our residents are expected to do more with less. And as a municipality, we need to make sure we live within our means. Now, is there things that happen throughout the year that we don't expect? Well, yes, that's one. I mean, how many years ago did we see a truck going off 394 running to the back of homes? You know, there's things that you don't expect, you don't want ever want tragedy. But there's things that would increase. Whoever thought last year we had a winter that was 10 times worse than any winter we've ever had? Whoever thought the public works would be out every single weekend plowing snow? So there's things that do happen. But that's where the department heads will make sure they come back before the board. We're going to be meeting, I think it's monthly now, right? Once the board approves the budget, Mohan's going to be putting off reports to the department heads monthly. Let them know where they're at in their budget, how much has been spent, so they can keep a closer eye on it. That was probably one of the complaints we received last year. You know, we met a couple times, and then by the end of the year, they found out they were over budget. So we're going to make sure we keep this in front of them constantly so that they're aware of where they're at in their budget and what needs to be, what they need to keep a closer eye on. So again, it's the same thing with me and my work. You know, my boss comes to me monthly and says, here's where you are with your overtime and your employees. Trustee?
But Mr. Mayor, I'm all for cutting overtime. But I'm talking about, and stating realistically, we're gonna take $110,000 off of overtime and expect them to fall under that. And we've already put a task force out there, as you stated, for the summer. And this is the summertime. We're gonna, we've already stated that we put a task force. We had lost officers, which when you lose officers, we all know that it's gonna create overtime. But to make it that much, to cut that much, I mean, I could see 30, maybe 40,000, $110,000 you're cutting, and you saw what you paid last year. What changed? What changed though? Last year to this year, what changed?
You want to know?
Yeah.
Enbridge.
Enbridge what? Gave us some money?
Well, no, when the Enbridge pipe was coming through last year,
Okay.
our officers worked overtime.
But they got paid from Enbridge.
They got paid, but what ends up happening though, is their pay still comes out of police department. Even though the village is reimbursed for those,
Thanks.
so it still shows overtime. So I mean, if you take off the Enbridge, I don't remember how much, you remember how much?
About 45,000.
So you got 45,000 there, right there, from last year.
But that should not have been part of overtime.
It
That
has-
should
it
not have
has-
been part of
It
overtime.
has to be.
that-
You have to keep their payroll where they're at.
I understand what you're saying, Mayor, but if that's an outside, then you should show that we got money in last year. We should show how much we got from Enbridge. There's nothing on here as far as showing how much we got. But to cut the budget, $110,000, I want to know what changed. Now, you asked me to give input. I'm asking, what changed other than Enbridge? Because we got reimbursed from Enbridge. We know that. So that should have been a wash. What changed that make us go $110,000 less than we did last year to this year? I don't see it.
It's, the police chief, he said he's going to reduce by $10,000.
Who?
Police chief,
What about
he said that he's going to reduce the overtime by $10,000.
10,000? Okay, but you,
We got $110,000 that we got here. Why do we? Who realistically? How are we going to meet that? And what, like I said before, what changed that we're able to justify $110,000 decrease in overtime? What did we do? I mean, all of a sudden, I don't know. I'm asking, what happened that we can justify this amount? Because to me, it's not realistic.
I think you have to remember too, there's a lot of things. Number one, we had Enbridge, that was $45,000. Number two, you have a police chief that we have here now who's no longer getting paid overtime. We're still in negotiations.
He was getting paid overtime last year.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
Well, when we brought him on, after we brought him on, he wasn't, okay? And we're in negotiations with the deputy chief, again, going into another salary position. Again, there's looking at how you staff. Again, I've talked to the chief, and it is challenging. He's admitted it's challenging. But he said there is things that he can put in place. And you sat here on the 30th, and you questioned him about it. It was on video. And finally, when he said he could handle it, you said, I guess you're okay with it, and you moved on to the next thing. So you have a department head that sat at the end of the table from you on the 30th that said, this is something that's challenging, but he thinks he can do. I think we need to go on and try to get our department heads to do it, rather than saying, I'm just going to give you another $100,000 just because it's what we always spent.
Mr. Mayor, I understand that. Like I stated before, the reason why I went along with what happened on the 30th, because I just got that report that day. All I was doing was looking at the numbers. I didn't get a chance to analyze why this was put in place. When I did get a chance to analyze this, then yes, I had that question. I did ask him, but realistically, I'm sorry, I'm keeping it up. Realistically, I don't see where we can justify that amount of money for that budget. I just can't see, because right now we're asking him by December, he's going to be coming to the board for January, February, March, and April. Because I can see now, I don't know what it is right now that we had from from June to July, what the overtime numbers are right now. I don't know, but I can't see this. But you saying that he said he can do it, then when he can't do it, then what are we prepared to do? So, I mean, because the budget, as you stated, is balanced. So if it's $1 out, I remember this, and you do remember this too. 3 years ago, we had a budget. Money was taken out for the crossing guard. I advocated to put that back in. We went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We finally got that $10,000 back in. Only thing I'm saying is this is not realistic. This is a lot more than $10,000. And what are we prepared to do at that point in time when we have overtime that's going to exceed that by Christmas? You still got 4 months to the budget for next year. And that's why I was wondering why. There's other things we can cut, but that was one of them, because on the same platform, we have vehicle expenses twice. We have vehicle expenses.
We're going to cover that, but again, the chief also told you on the 30th about the reason the other overtime was going up, because he brought in new police officers. And there was overtime with new police officers when they brought them on. So again, he has looked at, you asked what has changed. He explained to you on the 30th some of the things that's changed. Again, there's, again, it's the department. The department is, he can't handle everything. If something happens, he's going to come back with the board now. So.
And that's it. Okay.
You asked about the employer contributions. This does not fund our finance administration, but rather departments where the employees are paying from. Last thing we discussed at the budget hearing on the 30th, and the board was informed of the pension crisis. This is not just an issue that Sauk Village faces, but it's an issue that pretty much all of Illinois faces in these communities. And we're going to be committed to working with our state representatives, as they've been committed to working with us, as they continue to watch the courts. We know that there's pension things going on in the courts. In fact, I think they just lost a major one. So they are looking at what they can do to help all municipalities. We saw earlier was there's a pension reform bill for Springfield, and they tried passing something for Chicago, and one of those two just didn't make it court. So I talked to Representative L.D. Sims, and he said they're going back and we're looking at something statewide. So we'll continue looking at this again when it comes to the contributions. The board has already approved to go ahead and put all the money we get from the gaming machines. Again, it's kind of early to see. We didn't see very much from the first business. We've got a total of 3 businesses with gaming machines now. So we know all the revenues coming in from those gaming machines will go toward pensions. Vehicle expense, you talk about the $73,000. Again, this was discussed during the June 30th meeting. It was discussed during a public hearing on July 15th. Resident Francine Anderson asked the same questions to the board and was informed that the vehicle expense was for gasoline. So when you look at there, every department has vehicle expense. That's for gasoline, for fueling our vehicles. And it's under line 620. If you look under 620, vehicle expense. Vehicle consumables and small parts installed by village personnel includes gas, oil, unless installed by service station facility, diesel fuel and antifreeze, tune-ups, parts, batteries, filters, and other small parts. So when you look at vehicle expense, that's line 620. That's what it was. And again, it was like the third time I tried to tell people. Vehicle expenses for gasoline, and again, you've got other things like oil and things like that. We know that Public Works has been doing a lot of oil changes and stuff for our cars. So again, we talked about the new cars. This year, this was discussed during the budget hearing on June 30th, and the board was informed new squads were included in the budget. That was presented to the board by the mayor. In addition, the Northwest Indiana Times submitted a retraction to the above-mentioned story on July the 11th. below is the retraction to the article. And the video of the meeting from the planning group clearly states a couple of times that $94,000 that was budgeted, which $74,000 for the cars purchased last year, $74,000 for the new cars this year. It was very clear. In fact, sometimes, I don't know, I think everyone was at the board meeting, but if you look at this one here, here it is. So, but again, if you look at these, that's not going through. It was discussed.
Microphone.
It was discussed a couple times about cars. For some reason, they're coming up. No, I'm not going to take the time. But the videos from the plant, it's out there. It clearly states, in fact, trustee, you asked, what's this $94,000 for? I made it very clear during that time, and it wasn't probably 3 or 4 minutes later, explained again what we were doing. Talking about the new police officers, it's included in this budget, or for police and fire commissions, it's going for new police officers. It was talked about the $47,000 twice, which ended up being $94,000. Again, Northwest Indiana Times put a retraction in on July the 11th. The only reason I bring it up is because you mentioned the article they put in up here. You know, talking about the article earlier. So make sure that the board had the retraction from Northwest Indiana Times. But I think everyone was here for that. So I guess the trustees are the one that doesn't remember about the cars we mentioned.
This whole thing is just about the understanding.
No,
It is. Everything that you talked about is something that I asked questions about, and we're having rebuttal, and we're still going to go through all this, and it's going to still be the same outcome. We're still going to ask for a motion. So I'm just trying to figure out why we still want
because
this.
I'm answering your question.
You have it in paper, you have it in writing. Why? But there's nothing in here. There's nothing in here that says, okay, this is what you said, this is what I'm doing. This is what you said, this is what I'm doing. Everything is
You said we weren't getting police cars. I said this is what we're doing. We are getting police cars. You said we weren't hiring people. I said yes, we are hiring people.
At the meeting, I did not take the time to go through each and every page for this reason. That's why I gave everybody a copy.
That's why we're here for a special meeting.
Now we're going through this line by line, paragraph by paragraph, rebutting everything. But why are we doing it? You're not going to, not one person that said, okay, we're going to change it. Not one person. Why are we doing this? Why are we sitting through this at 9:30? Why don't we just take a vote? Why not take a vote?
I think we're not finding out which question.
Clarity.
We got an hour worth of your time.
My time. I didn't take an hour. I took an hour doing what, Mayor?
Let's see, the first time you tried stopping me, I said.
No, I tipped. Oh, I'm sorry. It's my fault. Okay, I'm sorry. That's on the record. You're right. You're right. Oh, this whole meeting was my fault. This whole meeting was done because of I actually asked questions. That's why this meeting is done.
So, and we're answering those questions. All right, let's go to the next one. You talk about the mention of the part-time wages under grants. Sorry, we've already talked about this. This is another repeat. Stated earlier, the information is incorrect. Employees' Parks and Recs are paid through the general fund. Those salaries are through grants from the village and its residents. I think if you have allegations, these are allegations, that's all they are. If you have proof of it, please bring it to our attention so we can make sure that we rectify it, but there's no proof that we can find. Everything's being paid through general fund. We talked about the improvements again in grants we applied for. And this is repetitive. We've already discussed this. Talk about the water fund. Asking about the percentages. And Mohan, go back and double check the percentages are correct, and they have been carefully calculated. With the reduced staff over the years, everyone is covering all positions at the village hall. Everyone hours in the front window collecting water bills, answering calls, and scheduling water department appointments. Asking about the percentages that the people are working. I think everyone here, when you come in there today, you're either going to find Cindy up there working, you're going to find Mike up there working, you're going to find Sue up there working, Mohan's up there covering the window. So everyone is spending more time, especially on the water department side. Mohan probably spends now probably the majority of his day talking to people about water bills and trying to see if we can work out water payments with them, trying to get collections. So he's spending a large portion of his time when it comes to that.
Why don't you read what I said? Why don't you read what I said?
We talk about
Instead of what your rebuttal said. Why don't you read what I said? I asked, why are we paying all of the money to the three people that work the office come out of the water fund? How come some of them doesn't come out of the general fund? Because they're not doing all water fund work. They do a lot of water fund work, but not all. Yes, we have other things that they do other work for. Not just all they take money for tickets. There's a lot of other things that we have the front office do. It is not 100% water fund, but 100% of their salary comes from water. That was my question. That was why I asked that. It wasn't that, yes, they do a lot with water fund, but not 100%. And we should make that.
So how do you allocate how much is water? Okay, if Cindy or Mohan is up there, asking a lot of questions about the water bills. I think we're at 70% for the water department and 30% for general fund. I think we're at 40% for the water department. How would you know how much to separate their check? I mean, I know what
You
you're
see how you
saying.
take the funds out?
I'm saying.
Whoever's in charge will do that.
If they're working for the water department, 100% they should be paid by the water department.
Right.
The mayor just said that all of them are spending time at the window answering questions about the water. I think up there 70% of their check answer questions about the water, 30% answer questions about the water. How will you know how much to take out for the water if you make $1 a minute? I mean, $1 every 2 weeks. It's kept there 25 cents worth out the water department fund and 75 cents out of the general fund. Who's gonna know how much he spent instead of there work for the water? So I think they just take it all out the water. I'm asking the question, how would you be able to justify how much of this check comes out of the water department?
That's why you have to.
That will fluctuate every.
That's why you have to. That's why you have to.
That's why you the village manager.
No, you have an administrator to do that. But yes, it shouldn't all come out. It shouldn't all come out of one fund. That's all I'm saying. That was my question. That was my suggestion. It shouldn't all come out. I'm not debating that.
How much of it do you want to pay out of the water fund?
I don't know, trustee. I'm not here every day. I don't know.
Who would know?
All I did was ask a question. All I did was ask a question.
He's the administrator that we have.
You don't know how much.
No. Trustee Burgess said, the administrator does that. He says he's not here every day. Do you know who's here every day?
Is that his
Who
job?
creates,
To keep
yes,
up with who's
that is
working out
his
the water
job.
department
It
and out the
is his,
general fund?
we pay him to put together things like this, to determine how much of what is going into where.
So
How much of this is going to that? When we take a TIF drawdown for administrative funds, it is Mohan's job to determine this much money we can draw from this TIF for administrative fees. Whether that's because of police presence in that area, fire presence, administrative, all that. It's Mohan's job. That's why we pay him. That's part of his responsibility. So yeah, it's not Trustee Burgess' job to say 30 cents on every dollar or 30% of this. No, that's Mohan's job. And since Mohan chose that amount, and that's what we pay him for, why are we questioning it? This is what we're saying. If we're saying it's not our responsibility, and it's the administrator's responsibility, and it's the person who puts together, who's here every day. He did. Okay.
Then if he's paying them out for water fund, he must be sitting there, sitting like this, and they'll have up this dealing with water related questions. So where is it?
Unless we develop a system, which again may be a really good idea for the 2015-2016 budget, but unless we develop a system that says, when you deal with a water-related issue, write down the time you start and the time you end, which I think that's a great idea for somebody to present to the people in the front. I don't volunteer for that, but somebody should tell them that they should write down when they start and when they stop, because that would be really great for Mohan, that makes is a great tool for him to be able to say, well, yes, today they worked 7.5 hours, but tomorrow they only worked 47 minutes. But Friday, they did 36.5 minutes. Maybe we should buy them stopwatches. I don't know. Regardless, great idea. 2015, 2016. At this point, we've entrusted Mohan with this responsibility. He is saying that they do this. They do a lot of water-related expenses. I don't know if it's 100%. I'm not here every day. It's a good point to bring up. Let's keep that in track for 2015-16.
All right, we're getting too graphic, sir. Talking about the overtime. Again, asked a question about the logical explanation. Again, we had a rough winter last year. This budget represents being winter with normal conditions. So again, bringing overtime back down to where it should be, especially in the water department. Talk about professional services. You guys have a question about that. This is correct. There will be, there's nothing budgeted under professional services. However, under line item 768, other contractual services, that line item has been increased in there. Talk about the transfers again. Here we are, transfers of sewer funds and water funds. This is a repeat of what was said earlier in the report on page number 9. So again, lots of being repeated. As previously stated, transfers are a recovery of funds expense from the general fund that are incurred due to specific line item, department, enterprise, TIF, etc. There's no errors and there are no figures arbitrarily. The transfers of $150,000 from water, $150,000 from sewer are for services occurred by the general fund. So again, we've already hashed that back and forth. Talk about, is this one here about depreciation? Yeah, this one here about depreciation both under water and sewer. Again, you're gonna find the same thing. When it comes to budgeting for depreciation, it's optional. So both under water and sewer. So you got those right there. Get down to TIFs, TIF number 2. Talk about there's no fund balances provided. And here you write no funds, no revenues are budgeted because the village abated the taxes. So that's why you've got nothing there. You go down to, talks about where are payments of these bonds included in this budget. Talks about unbudgeted items. Everything's been budgeted. You know, I'd encourage you to look at page number 27 of your audit. I'm sorry, of your budget. Page number 27. These amounts are correct and expenditures for bond payments are found on page 27 of the 2014-15. Pick up the wrong. Yeah, 2014-15 budget. In addition, bond payments are based on debt service schedules and not the annual audits. There was some questions about the apparent earlier about saying it's unbudgeted for or the amounts. Remember, your debt service schedules are different than the audits. You pay a certain amount every year. That amount gets, I always forget, lower. The amount usually every year it lowers till you get down to the end. You have a smaller payment. So that's what we follow. The debt service payments. So be careful when you're looking at your audits. Talked about here that the village currently has $800,000 in bills. And I think we're right, yeah, we've repeated this on page 12. These areas cannot be budgeted for, they've already occurred and accounted for, booked as of April 30th. So again, something else repeated. The Housing Commission, asking about the $75,000, why it's not budgeted, because it's not our money. You have to remember, the Housing Authority went out, they applied, they submitted, and received the money through the Housing Commission, not through the village. And on top of it, they're not getting $75,000. It's the same as our IEPA loan. The money's sitting out here. They provide all the documentation. The documentation is reviewed, and persons like us, like the Housing Commission, is submitting invoices, and then that money gets paid for those invoices once they're approved. So they're not sitting on those $75,000. I just want to make sure I make that clear. And number 2, it's not the villages, it's the Housing Authority. So,
back up.
If it's not the villages, then why do we pay?
because the way it's working is, it is we've got the program going through the village. And what happens is we provide an invoice to the Housing Commission. Housing Commission provides their invoices. Housing Commission ends up being paid, and Housing Commission reimburses the village. The way it's set.
Okay.
Again, it has to be an intergovernmental agreement for the funds to go through.
Where in this, I want to see in this, because I haven't seen anything for this grant. I haven't seen any paperwork or whatever.
Because it's not our grant.
But if it's not our grant, why are we using our money and waiting for theirs to come in? If it's not our grant, we have nothing to do with this. Why are we fronting the money up front, waiting on to get paid from them? Why don't the people that agreed to this contract or agreed to do the cutting wait till that money comes, and they should have been notified at the time that they got this to say, well, you're not going to get paid until we get our money. Why are we fronting the money up front? Why is the village taking it from wherever they take it from, paying this, and then waiting for our money? We're not a clearinghouse. That's why I asked, where was this money? Because we paid, the first wave of payments came out of our money. Wherever it came from, it came on a village check. Even though there's no money put into that account yet, we still paid that money, and now we're waiting on our money as if we had that kind of money to wait on. I'm asking, so if that's the case, then what kind of grant does this state that the village should pay first, or the village will pay the money and we'll pay you whenever? But
Okay, Trustee,
I haven't
Trustee,
seen
a good question. Let me try to explain it.
Okay.
The Housing Authority got the okay to go ahead and start the work. After the work had already started, all the funds got held up. In fact, we had to get our state representatives involved. In fact, I just got a letter from Marcus Evans, who sent a letter asking for our funds to be released. It's sitting on my desk right now. So, did you all get the same letter? So what happened was, the Housing Authority, along with the village, went ahead and started doing all this work because off of good faith that they said we could go ahead and start, and the funds would be released. Well, again, after a while, also we found out the funds are not being released. So that's why pretty much all the lawnmower cutting is stopped as of right now, until we get the funds released. So you ask, why do we want to pay? Because you had people out there that also, on good faith, went out there mowing the grass, knowing that it was probably going to be about a 30-day turnaround before they got their money. That's what they told us. They said once you submit your invoices, it's about anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. So the people who got the mowing the grass, they knew there was about a 30-day window before they would get paid. That would be time for the village to get reimbursed with our money, go ahead and issue the checks. But when it came down to it, they said everything's been placed on hold. And you can't tell people who's been out there working on good faith saying, I think they're going to get a check in 30 days, that they're not getting paid because the state is not paying money. So, again, it was $7,000 that went out to pay. Again, a lot of them are village residents or village employees that were out there mowing the grass. Went out to pay them, knowing that we're getting this money. And again, we've got our state reps involved. Our state reps are sending letters out telling them to release the funds. And once the funds are released, and again, there's going to be another meeting with them to make sure that, is it okay to go forward? What's going to happen if anything changed before they get picked up again?
Okay, you explained that today. Why did we pay this without an explanation at the time that it was presented at the last meeting? When I asked a question about it, it was like, oh, we didn't get the money yet. How come? But we paid it. We paid the money. But that's another thing that I was talking about, and it says that. Why weren't we told that's how it happened? How come nobody could explain to us other than just put it on the accounts payable for $7,600? And when I asked why are we paying that, did we get the money? No, we didn't get the money. So why would we even pay something that if it was explained, at least give a chance to explain it, but that was never explained. Now you're explaining it now. After it's been paid, after we took the money out, where it came from, I don't know, it came out of general fund somewhere. That's one of the reasons why I hate to see money go to general funds, because it can go for anything. But why weren't we at least notified? Now, you're talking about, okay, from now on, we're gonna do, from now on, it should have been done back then. And that's all I'm saying, that we should have been notified that we're gonna front this money up front because of whatever circumstance. Hopefully, we'll get our money. I still haven't heard, I saw that they're gonna try to get it. What's the projection date of their releasing the money to go into this separate account that we voted on 2 weeks ago? They have the money go to a separate account because they needed a place to have the money go to. And that was explained. But this part here was not explained, and who made that determination to go ahead and let's pay them. Even, yeah, we know we owe them. We don't owe them. The state owes them. But we take it upon ourselves to pay them. Where was that brought up to the board? That's the only thing I'm saying. And that's where I have a problem with everything. We should be notified of any payouts that are unusual. That's an unusual payout. That's one of the unusual payouts, but that's an unusual payout.
Okay, then I look at the summary again. There's not supporting data on how the over-anticipated or overestimated amounts were figured, or how it's determined, other than assuming that the amounts were incorrect. At Sauk Village, we have a finance director that has over 27 years in accounting finance experience to ensure that all governmental standards and policies are being followed. So it's important to realize that I think the report's good. I think what it does, it kind of pretty much keeps us all, in line. Makes me have to be able to go back and have to answer some of these questions and refresh my memory. But again, going through this, I know it seems like we're taking offense that we went through this, but again, by trying to make sure we answer these questions, that's what's important. And try to make sure to answer all the questions. Now, when it comes to recommendations and solutions, there's not too many. We talk about some of the solutions when it comes to the water collections. I mean, that's already in the works. Again, refreshing your memory about something that Trustee Myers brought. Making sure that the board refreshes your memory that we had police cars that were presented to you back on June 30th. Talking about employees in the police department. Again, refresh your memory about how the steps we have to take going through the Police and Fire Commission first. And how time-consuming it is to start the hiring process. So, again, this is, you put a rebuttal, I came back with trying to answer questions, trying to make sure the board had answers.
It was just an analysis.
And as you stated before, and I have to say, you just got to talking about the last page. When I asked, what was it, the amount of outstanding bills still unpaid, that wasn't budgeted. We talked about that a few minutes ago. The amount owed to the police fund, the police pension fund, that amount there is not budgeted. We did put in $194,000 because that money was levied. That's what that is. The amount owed for the fire pension fund, there's nothing in there for that. The anticipated overage of the general fund. The one I do have a problem with is the estimated water revenue. I mean, we've already raised the water, and we know we don't get 100% collection. We know we don't get 100%, which we could, but we don't. So we should kind of be conservative with that. That's what that was the reason for that.
But again, what happens is this stuff is already covered inside the earlier pages. I mean, I could have went back and said, here's what I said earlier, back down here again. We talked about police and fire pension. We talked about it on June 30th. We talked about the issues that the village has. Again, having funds to go in there. We're taking the money that was levied. We're making sure that money goes in there. We're taking funds that come in through the gaming machines, putting that money in there. Again, I'm looking to the village board. I mean, again, this is not something that's just
No, I know that.
to the levy.
That's why I'm
It's
asking.
statewide.
If we don't come up with a solution for the levy, we're going to be levied again next year. Because that $690,000 payment is going to come due next year. And if we don't have the money, as I stated many times in board meetings, that's why when you take out a bond for anything, and you don't pay the money, or we don't have the money to pay the money, it gives the bonding institution the right to levy your village. That's where the levy comes from. The levy comes from, if you can't pay the bills, if you can't pay for that, then the residents have to pay for it. That's why there's an extra levy. Yes, we levy every year for the end of the year, I think at about 2% interest, 2%, and every year we do that, so we're gonna have to file for any additional. In other words, every tax body files for a levy at the end of the year, and they have certain guidelines that they file for, and we fall within that guideline. If we go out of that guideline, we have to show paperwork and everything else, so we levy the same amount every year. The school district, the library, every tax body levies every year in December. This other levy that we're talking about now came about because we couldn't pay our bond bill. And all I was saying, if we do the same thing we did then, it's gonna be the same thing. Next year, you will have another levy. That's why I said we had 2 this year. When we had 2 increases. Usually we have just 1, but we had 2. And next year, if we don't do the same thing, we'll have another one. Because we're gonna have another levy. We had a levy now for the bond, 2007 bond, we're gonna have another levy in December. If we don't do anything about it again, we're gonna have another levy in May or April. And that'll affect you on your second installment.
Again, the other thing you talked about was the over-anticipated and underestimated. Those are your estimates versus, I guess you could say, Mohan's estimates. I don't think, Mohan, do you agree with the over and the underestimated figures in the answer? He doesn't want to get involved. He's saying, I'm staying neutral, I don't want to get involved. So, again, they're your figures, and Mohan worked hard on this budget also with me, so we don't see it. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So we're looking for hopefully a normal year this year. Any other trustees have any other questions? All right, move to item number 3 then. That's for a motion to approve the 2014-2015 Sauk Village budget. For a motion to approve. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, Village Clerk, please call roll.
Burgess.
No.
Gordon.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Hoskins.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Williams.
Motion carries. That's for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Hey, Pete.
Heartaches by the number.